get started with some prayer. So I'm going to introduce you to Xavier Evoy, who will begin leading us in prayer this morning. And hopefully everybody can get the energy and join in song. It'll be great. So,
good morning. So our theme for our third day here is love. And so we as Christians believe that where there's two or more of us, there is God. In ubi caritas here, if there's any Latin scholars here, the chant means in English, where there is God, where there is love and charity, there is God. So as we are gathered here, certainly more than two, so is love and so is charity, because in both those things, God is present. So I want to share with you our chant here. I know it may look confusing. We're going to have a little translation here up for you. So this is Gregorian chant in probably its purest form. So it's going to be hard to read, but if anybody's been to Mass, knows the responsorial psalm, we're going to do it kind of like that. So I'm going to need some help with that top part here. So I'll show you that and enhance it here for you. So this is what we're going to sing together. So when I put my hand up, I'm going to need your guys' help. It sounds something like this. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Can we try that? All right. Ready? Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Congregamus vinus inum Christe amu, exultemus et in podius unctedemur, temeamus et amus diverinum, et cordileamus nos in Crio. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Simule cocum inum congregamum, nenus menditivimus meru caveamus, cessent incula maglarine, Christe lites, et in medio nos dircos, Christus Deus. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Simulcoque cum pirates videamus, gloria et valtum tuum, Christe Deus, gauduamum Christe ensum, ateque probum, secula per infinita secula lorum. Amen. All right. And now you know Gregorian chant.
And now we're going to have a scripture reading from 1 Corinthians 13 and 1 through 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
Thank you. So, theme is love. What a beautiful scripture. Thank you for the Gregorian chant, Xavier. That was beautiful. Thank you, Mariah, for framing that with scripture. In Greek, there are three words for love. There's eros, which is romantic love. There's philia, which is brotherly love. And there's agape, which is divine unconditional love. And I would think that it's this agape love that we are seeking and we are called to live out. Love is an action word. And so it means we cannot just sit on our hands. We need to act upon leaving here to love our children. And we're going to close our prayer service with a song, and it's How Can I Keep From Singing? And there's a bit of a Play Like a Champion history with this song. There was a swim coach here, swim coach Tim Welsh, and he was here for many, many years, coaching swimming. Started out coaching both men and women, and then he retired as the men's swim coach. And Tim is a very good friend of Clark's, and he sat with Clark, helped him think about this concept of Play Like a Champion, and was with us from the very beginning. And our 5th anniversary, this is before the renovation of the stadium, and there was the old press box. And we used to have our dinner in the old press box. And Tim was our keynote speaker. And he ended his presentation with saying, this is such a celebratory time that we've made it 5 years. And it's, how can I keep from singing? And he had this song on the tables, and he invited everyone to join him in joy for all that had happened with Play Like a Champion in 5 years. And so we thought we'd bring it back now after the 20 years. And how can we keep from singing? We've grown just bigger, and we've expanded more, and we have so much yet to do. And so if you would join in this song, and Emma is going to lead us.
Thank you. So as you've already heard, our theme for today is love, and Kristen talked a little bit about how this song is called How Can I Keep From Singing, and sharing that joy and celebration and with that anniversary. And now it's our 20th anniversary, so how can we keep from sharing that joy of this 20 years of this work that helps the kids and helps them to have better opportunities to play sports. And when we think about this in terms of love, sometimes you may have felt this way. You're just so filled with love. You've just received an outpouring of love from the Holy Spirit, and you're so filled with joy with that love that you just want to pour it out. Maybe you've experienced this in your work and you just want to pour it out through your work. So I just invite you to reflect on how you can go and pour out the love that you have received in joy to the people that you serve through your work. So the song is, there's music on your tables. It will also be on the screen. I will start, there's 3 verses. I will start with singing the first verse, and I just invite you to join whenever you feel comfortable. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the sweet, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It finds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though my joys and comforts die? The Lord my Savior liveth. What though the darkness gather round? Songs in the night he giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that refuge clinging, since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? I lift mine eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths, since first I learned to love it. The peace of Christ makes fresh my heart, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine since I am his. How can I keep from singing? Thank you so much for entering to this time of prayer. And I'm going to invite Kristen back up to introduce our next speaker.
Clark can be hard to track down. Do a little scene change here. Okay. Clark, you've been asked to speak. Put down your breakfast. Yeah. We'll let you eat eventually.
This is great. I was having a great conversation. We talk a lot about collective. I'm beginning to think a better word is community, impact on our work as a community. I was talking to somebody from the United States Tennis Association who wants to help us out, and he's talking to me. I don't know. Does anybody know red ball tennis? Anybody here play pickleball? Come on. So basically, this is adapting the tennis ball so it goes a little slower. You can play in smaller courts and different services, and a lot of resources here nationally we can tap in. And also, this is a thing where people who are playing at the country club can also see what's going on downtown, and then we can build those bonds where we can do the radical kinship thing. So it's an honor. What are all the words? It's a privilege to introduce our next speaker, who has already spoken a bit at the very beginning of the conference. He's been very present. The greatest testimony to LaVonte is the, really has been, at least for me, the children whom he's coached and mentored over many years now. And started Lost Boys. I love the name, but also you picked up the Lost Girls, and we saw them and the really the maturity and the wisdom and the insights that the youth have are invaluable. And I think if you were there for that session, but you all know as coaches and teachers that talking to the children and listening and taking them seriously, respecting them. When you listen to, and when I listen as a teacher or coach to children, I learn from what they say, but that's an act of respect. To try to learn and to understand and to give specific feedback to them. And that's a respect, and this is what LaVonte has been doing with children. This is kinship. This is treating our children beyond our immediate family, with the kind of respect that we should be treating the children in our nuclear families or whatever, and giving them that respect. And then the good thing for us is we start to know what's going on, and this is what LaVonte has done. And then LaVonte has been a model for all of us of someone who built a program on the south side of Chicago, and then he comes over to North Lawndale and said, well, okay, what can we do here and in other places in the city of Chicago? But we stole him and took him not just to Indiana, but to a national conference, because we said, LaVonte, you're doing this, you do it so well with children, but then you understand the collective, you understand how to build an organization, so we could very quickly take advantage of really the love that people have in their hearts, but they don't know what to do with it. They want to do something with their lives, and they want to be happy. A lot of us, just one little thing I'll say, before I did any of this, I was in the Augustinian seminary. I was there for a long time. The Pope, who to my friends from the seminary is known as Bob, and it really, he calls himself Bob because he wants to make the point, look, I'm one of you, and my job is not to be the big maha up on the hill giving orders. My job is more like to be in the kitchen, preparing the food, bringing it out, maybe asking you, how could I help you, or how could we help you to do your work? Because your work is the work that the clergy or even a pope, who is the Bishop of Rome after all, and his job is to help that community, but then to help us all. But that's what this is all about. And speaking of happiness, and I'll say just one last thing about my brother Jim, who would love to be, and he would have been introducing you, LaVonte. But Jim would say that if we're looking for happiness, our children are looking for happiness, and we're looking for it. And a lot of times you just can't quite get there. You just feel dissatisfied with things. And one of the things that Bob Prevost, or Leo XIV, learned in his life was if you want to experience happiness that lasts, then you have to, and he said our happiness lies with God, not with material things. And God had some advice for us, I believe, because God really only has one command, which is love your neighbor. And then if you forget again, who's your neighbor? It's not just the children in your nuclear family, right? Because Jesus explained, let me tell you a story about the Good Samaritan. It meant to shake you up a bit and expand that. But I believe that the Good Samaritan, what was good about the Good Samaritan was he found happiness because he went out of his way. And that's what you all are doing, and that's what we're going to do so well. I'm sorry for the long introduction, but I'm deeply, deeply grateful to. Here's an example of one person making a big, big, big difference. And I know you were all like that. So LaVonte, it's with love. appreciation and expectation for what you're about to say.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you this third day. Clark, thank you for the, that's a very Clark introduction. I appreciate Clark. And I really wish Jim was here to introduce. So today, I hope that we all move in Jim's spirit, which is definitely love. I've never felt so much love as I have from Jim, Clark, Kristen. So I try to keep my emotions intact. I'm like really an emotional person. I want to thank Peter. Peter's been amazing as well, keeping us on point. As a start, I want to kind of reflect on the reading that we saw up today. I think Mariah gave the reading from Corinthians, and I grew up Roman Catholic. Yeah, yes, I did. Look at me, I'm Catholic. And I thought that was, that's one of my favorite scriptures. It's so much packed in there, right? And it talks about focusing back on, really on love. And so love has always been a guiding principle. I'll tell you where this is going in a minute. That's got to do with what we're doing and what we're talking about here today. But that principle of love, it's going to be at the root of everything each one of us does in this room, in the work that we do. The love for one another, the love for the people we serve, the love for the families we serve. We are looking at one of the best examples to me of collective leadership right in this room with the leadership of Play Like a Champion. Kristen, Jim, Clark, Peter, this team moves in love. And so if you've ever been in a meeting and you're planning something with them, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Can I get a hand clap for that? Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, first off, anything that we do collectively or as leaders, it is going to fail if it's not rooted in love. My favorite collective group of leaders, I call them Jesus and his gang of 12, right? Yeah, I come from a city full of gangs, so we used to that. So to me, I'll reference them. But that was true love in leadership, and look at what it did for us thousands of years later, right? Millions and millions of believers. So I want to show you this video kind of before I get into our brief discussion today. I'll tell you this, I wrestled with, it's a professional conference. Do I put together a nice slideshow and talk through all of this collective impact and collective leadership stuff? And after 2 days of sessions and slideshows and lectures, I'm like, I don't think they want to see that from me this morning. They want to have some breakfast, and then we want a fellowship. So this morning, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit, and we're going to fellowship. All right, so I want to show you a little video from something. This is hopefully this will be becoming a full-fledged little documentary. We're looking for someone to publish it. So a good friend of ours, Thane Montgomery.
It kind of morphed into
volume on this
whole
peak.
organization. Into Lost Boys. And so it became more than baseball when we really put it kind of morphed into this whole organization, into Lost Boys. And so it became more than baseball when we really applied the human touch to it.
What impact have I had? That's the question I start asking myself every September.
I found out that he was coaching baseball outside of the school. I was gonna take the girls out of the school and end up starting a girls softball team with him. And eventually that's what happened.
Lost Boys is a family. Like, everyone is your brother and sister.
Leave here today, like I said, with your heads up high.
I actually feel like I make a difference. It's a blessing to be able to go through what I've been through and then be able to come back and impact other people.
you have to be the doctor, the lawyer, the caregiver. Sometimes you got to be the parent as well, because then you got to think about it. Some of these kids are being raised by kids themselves.
We hear a loud pop, and he stumbles back into the house and says, "Dad, I think I'm shot. Do I keep doing the work I'm doing? Are we making a difference?" And when I think about the young people I serve, we do.
We running all day. We running all day.
You focus, huh? Let all my sweat dry. You ready to play this game?
Old saying is, there is no crying in baseball.
That's an example of what's a false belief about emotions. You are a human being. You are entitled to cry.
Look, you see how he's sad right now? You ain't been loving on him. You gotta give him hugs and shit.
Lord, forgive us for the language. Okay. I just repented for the language at the University of Notre Dame, but that last phrase is probably the most important phrase of that video. Joe makes a reference to this plant, and for it to grow, she says, you gotta give it hugs and stuff. And every time I watch that video, that jumps back at me more and more, right? Because we know the truth about plants and they're organic, and so research has been done that they respond to sound and how we talk to them and treat them. And when it's positive, we learn that what plants flourish and grow, and we do the opposite. They wither and they die a little bit quicker. And I got to thinking, if the simple makeup, organic makeup of a plant can do that, what can we do in the complex, beautiful makeup that God has created us as human beings with? So when we're not getting that love and we're not getting those hugs and we're not getting that, what's happening to us? Are we withering inside, or are we growing and flourishing? So me personally, I took that thought, that mindset into leadership. I've been fortunate to be mentored by a lot of people in my community who have contributed in small ways and really big ways in the city of Chicago. And I started really examining and watching what good leadership looked like. I mentioned last night when we were winning the prizes that one of my favorite coaches and more impactful mentors was Father Gerald O'Reilly, growing up as a youth at Our Lady of Peace School and Church in Chicago on the South Side. It's now closed, unfortunately. We see a lot of that happening in Chicago. But Father exposed us to sports. And more importantly, Father taught us the love of Christ. And he taught us how to walk it. And Father walked it in his leadership every day. I told y'all, no blasphemy, but he looked like Jesus in Teen Wolf, and he's on the south side of Chicago, walking up and down 79th Street. If you ever been to Chicago, when I say 79th Street, you know what I'm talking about. And to see a white guy with long flowing hair on 79th Street. So Father didn't care. He moved in love, and so he got a lot of respect for that. And then there are leaders who are more like the Pharisees and Sadducees, that they talk about their chest beaters and they talk about their work and what they do. And, you know, without faith, work is what? It's dead. So as a kid, I was really enamored by what is leadership? What does good leadership look like? And so that's where it started for me, was with Father. He had this love for all of us. And he taught us so much. And yes, Father O'Reilly is still alive. He is probably in his late 70s now. He's still a good friend. I told him I'd be here. I tried to get him to come to Notre Dame. But we still talk. And so he's still really important part of my life because I learned so much from him. So I took that into my work at Lost Boys. And so part of my job is not just helping children develop, helping children be the best versions of themselves. It's also my job to make sure that my staff are the best version of themselves and that they are given enormous opportunity through this platform that God has blessed us with. And so when we sit at the table and we do things together, it's not just do what LaVonte says, it's do what we say. And so everybody is included in that decision-making power, in that decision-making structure. I don't know about you, but I don't like kings except for Christ. That's the only king I acknowledge. No one likes a tyrant. I know many, you keep your hands, you don't got to show them, but I know you worked for somebody that you hated. They were an a-hole, right? They were a tyrant. They just worked your nerves, right? And you're like, why? I got to have my check, so I just got to work for this person. So yeah, I would never want to be that person in terms of being a boss and leadership. And I think we're beginning to try and take that approach into the work that we're doing with other organizations. It's being, again, demonstrated here at Play Like a Champion. I started coming here about, I think this is my 4th conference. And so each year, Clark and Kristen and Jim have been including me more and more. And so I've been very, very fortunate, very blessed, and extremely grateful that they have included me in that, to the point that they allow me to participate in some of the planning activities. And so that is an example of real collective leadership, because they could have just left me out and say, hey man, look, you got 10 minutes, we want you can give you the mic, and you go up here and you talk about this. And no, they were very thoughtful about everything. And if I may share a little, Clark, in the planning, Clark and Kristen were very thoughtful about us as the members of this family that are Black Americans. They knew that yesterday was a super important holiday to us, Juneteenth. And so they definitely acknowledged that in the planning conversations. What can we do to honor that holiday for you guys? Should we do this? Should we do that? And it was like, nah, it's cool. But the fact that that thought even crossed their mind to say, hey, is there a way we should honor this? Is there something in particular that we should do? That was enough in itself, right? So we didn't have to have a fancy thing and y'all came in yesterday and kente cloth and black, red, and green everywhere, throwing up a fist and putting your hair in an afro. No, you didn't have to do any of that, right? So it was a quiet celebration with you all as our brothers and sisters too. A place that, well, we knew we felt comfortable to be, and we felt seen, and we felt celebrated. And that's collective leadership, that they thought that way. So the collective leadership, though, is extremely important into the thing that we keep talking about, which is the collective impact. Because if you don't have the collective leadership, you'll never get to the collective impact. I'm sure we've all seen this, even those of you that are working in archdioceses, the dioceses around the country. Yes, we're Christian, but we're still human, so that means what? We sin. We don't get it right, whatever you want to say, right? People get caught up with their egos, and so we don't get a chance to move things as far as we should move them in this country, because a lot of folks get caught into self. And so when we're doing collective impact work, the first thing I notice is we have to get out our own way, and then we have to get into a collective leadership model. And OT know what I'm talking about, right? OT and I cross lines all kind of ways. And we gonna really chop it up this year, OT, as we get back home. But we have mutual partners and colleagues, and we do all kinds of different work together. And so we see a lot of the same people in these leadership circles, in the things that are advancing. And the things that are stalling more, we kind of see why they stall. It's people that are caught up on self, and they're caught up on their egos. And so it doesn't move the collective, right? So another example of collective leadership working really well and driving the collective impact is Jason Daniels. Jason, I think, had to leave and head back to Chicago. The baby probably start dialing the cell phone because these are COVID babies and they come out with technology and cell phones and all of that stuff now. So, it's a different day. So Jason had to go, but great example what Jim and Clark and Jason and Derek and his wife Heather, they have all created on the West Side with the North Lawndale Athletic and Recreation Association. Did I get it right? I got it right. So we're involved in it because Coach Smith, who three-fourths of my team is late, they'll be here in a minute. Coach Smith is our MVP program director, and she's from North Lawndale, and so on the West Side. And so that's how we got involved, because she wanted to take this work back to her own neighborhood. This work that we do started in South Shore, which was the neighborhood I was born and raised in. And Coach was working in that neighborhood. She was actually coaching my daughters at their elementary school in basketball. That's originally how we met. And it became interesting, and from there we ended up getting girls involved, because if you know Coach Smith, and some of you take the moment and talk to her. She looks scary, but she's actually really nice, y'all, I promise. But yeah, she came up to me and well, you got the baseball for the boys. Y'all heard her say it on there. And it was like, well, what do you got for girls? I don't got nothing for girls. It's lost boys. And I'm like, the boys are the ones like gangbanging, so I'm like worried about that. Well, you got to get something for the girls. And so I'm like, okay. And we made it work. And it was actually beautiful to bring the young ladies in the fold. Ironically, the women now run Lost Boys. Our leadership team is 75% women. Good clap for that. Yeah, it's women that run Lost Boys. And they handle everything. They just keep us rolling. But it was again, that's another example of collective leadership, right? Because I could have been caught up on my ego and not let this woman kind of come in and take over and direct my hand. But I did, because she had a vision, and that vision that she had was mutually beneficial. And so we advanced that vision, and to this day, I'm very proud that Coach Smith came to me with that idea, and that we have our Lost Girls. And don't be confused about it. A lot of people hear the name, and they think it's kind of a negative connotation. Well, why did you name it Lost Boys and Lost Girls? Are the kids that bad? No, it's not about the kids. That was an indictment on the adults. What is something that's lost? Something that's lost is something we have willingly relinquished control of, or we unintentionally didn't know that we've lost control of it. So there's a version of intentional, and then a version of, oops, I lost my wallet, I don't know I dropped my keys. So, and it wasn't just an indictment on like parents, it was on the entire adult community, that we had let our community get to the place where it was, that we were like the fourth most violent community in Chicago at the time that I started this. And so just so you know, that's where the name Lost Boys came from. I kind of had an epiphany moment in the middle of coaching. I was just a Little League coach in another league, South Shore Little League, and practicing in the middle of the day, a bunch of 11 and 12-year-old boys. And so practice is wrapping up, and I'm finding out that the leader of the league is folding it up, and so I'm telling boys they can go someplace somewhere else, like Jackie Robinson West. They were in our district, or Southside Little League. And as I'm doing that, a situation happens. It's middle of the day, summertime, and two guys are like chasing another guy across the field with a gun. By the way, let me tell you about this park. It's called Rosenblum Park, where we are. Yes, because my community used to be Jewish before it was black. And so we're in Rosenblum Park, and two guys chasing another guy. And I am old school. I hit the dirt. I'm from the 90s, Boys in the Hood generation. I know what time it is. Ricky, I'm getting down. The kids are like, hey, is he gonna get him? He gonna get him? At $5, he get him. I'm like, y'all know he got a gun, right? It's like, bullets don't have names, right? And so at that moment, I noticed how desensitized the children at that time, those children are now 24, 25. Some of them are coaches at Lost Boys. They're back in the organization. I recognized that I had an epiphany. I feel God gave me a vision for this at that point. And that's where that came from. And I thought about, I said, this is crazy. Our community is lost mentally, emotionally, spiritually, economically. We're just disconnected from ourselves. And that's how I got the name, and that's how I started to work. The next day, I just told the boys, hey, never mind, I'll keep you together. We're going to barnstorm. So anybody that knows baseball, Mr. Sierra, you can appreciate this. I made them a Negro League baseball team. I called them the Black Yankees. I should have called them the Black Mets. But, and I went to the local grocery store, and the guys let me have, they had some black NY hats in there, which is part of why I picked the Black Yankees, because I was just going with what I could get. And he donated me some hats. I went and bought some black t-shirts from the beauty supply store, and then Pitcher In for Baseball. My good friend David Rhodes over at Pitcher In for Baseball. He's no longer there. He's like a consultant and an author now. But some of you may know Pitcher In for Baseball. You may have gotten stuff from them before. But David sent me some gray pants, and then I started calling around and calling leagues and trying to get games, and it was like one of the hardest things ever, especially when I was trying to cross over and play in Indiana, because where we live in South Shore, we are 15 minutes from the border of Indiana, so I'm always over in Hammond, Indiana. So that's our humble beginning. And so what that started out, I was just trying to do Little League Baseball, right? And then as I got into it, and we started barnstorming, and one of my best pitchers was actually a girl named Shay Shay, and she would strike out all the boys, and she would kind of bully them. She was like Baby D, if you ever seen Friday, take everybody's snacks. So it was really cool to watch, right? This girl dominating on the pitcher's mound. And by the way, Shay Shay turned out to be a very pretty young woman. But in that, as we're just playing, I'm like, I'm showing up, they're showing up, but it's something missing. And what's missing, their parents were missing, a lot of them. And then there was something missing with the kids. Trying to get them to focus, and they got a lot going on. So it dawned on me that they needed more. And then that's how Lost Boys started being developed. And, our model, fast forwarding to being a sports-based youth development organization. At the time, I didn't know that even existed, right? I finally got the name of that during college, during my master's at DePaul, and I was doing my thesis. And in my lit review is where I finally discovered that there was a name or a model for what I was doing. I knew it had to be something academically, but I couldn't figure it out. But we did. So all of that is to say, and to give you a little taste of that, to say all of that has been accomplished through collective leadership. I didn't know that at the time that I was doing it, but our existence is due to collective leadership. People who believed in the work, believed in the vision, connected with me, and then we drove that work together. Coach Smith is here now. Coach Smith, stand up so everybody, they can talk to you, because I told him you're nice, you just look mean. So Coach has been my sister, my right-hand gal, through this all for almost 13 years. We've been at it. She caught buses from the west side to the south side when she didn't have a car, taking girls with her, whatever we needed to do. And nobody was getting paid at that time. We all had regular jobs and just making it work. I got about 3 minutes. So let's wrap this all up real nice. See, I told you it was better than me giving you a slideshow and talking technical academia stuff. Pete, can you quickly put this, Peter's not in here. Tessa, can you put that scripture back up there to end? Can we end with that, Peter? The scripture that Mariah, I want to reference that real quick in my last 2 minutes. I'm keeping up with the time, Pete. When you go back home, you're probably already doing all of this, but I just hope you all go back with a renewed energy around collective leadership, humbling ourselves, putting the collective, whatever you are doing first. Because that's going to drive the collective work and the collective impact that you all are having in your respective communities. So, real quick, one more time, I told you this was one of my favorite scriptures out of the entire Bible, and just so happens, and I don't believe in coincidence, so I thank God that he put this on. Whoever chose this, who chose the scripture? You, Peter? Whoever chose Christy? Fantastic. But you know how I don't have to preach to the choir because you are the saints, as Jim called you, all of us. And so when you know God, and you know that we are connected in that way. And so I believe God gave this to Kristen, and I thank him because it's perfect. It connects to what I'm talking about here as I wrap up. The biggest thing, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. For now, we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, love. But the greatest of these is love. That's perfect. That meets the theme. And I'll leave you with this. The last time Jim, Kristen, and Clark and I spoke, one thing popped out at me about the theme. When you go home with the lapel pins you now have, and you keep them, you got all three. And I know you all already got this in you, all three. But it translates. To me, the translation, faith, hope, love, is belief, plan, and action. Say that one more time and I'll walk off this stage. Your faith is your belief. Your hope is your plan. Take your faith, your belief, build your plan, which you may already have, and then lastly, your love. Put it into action. So your belief, your plan, and your action, and do it collectively, and we will change Chicago, South Bend, LA, my guy Dre in Philly, my guy Dre and the homeboys in LA. We would change this entire country, and guess what? We are what's needed in America right now, because what's happening is wrong. I ain't getting political. I'm just telling the truth, because it says to tell the truth. Right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is God's heart. God includes everybody. He don't exclude nobody. Amen. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
So we move on to our next session, and for those of you who are youth trainers, you're going to recognize these faces because Alison and Delayna are both in our Youth Coach video series, and so I know I've shared this with you through email, but You literally are talking to thousands of coaches every year across the country, from Miami to Seattle, and all in between, sharing your wisdom of coaching. And so it's just a great blessing that you're here today to share with us in person. All right, thank you, Pete. All right, this one's better. So I'd like to introduce Alison Silverio, who is the Notre Dame women's tennis coach. She was a national champion in her own playing days at Georgia Tech. And prior to coming here, she was the head coach at Oregon. And you had a great turnaround in that program. And a fun fact about Alison is she had her 100th career win this year. Yes, welcome, Alison.
Thank you.
And Delayna Myers came to Notre Dame as a head coach in 2016. She cheered at Bowling Green University in Ohio, and she had 9 years of coaching experience before coming to Notre Dame. And fun fact about Delayna is she is a new mom with a 3-month-old baby. In your gift bag, there might be a little Play Like a Champion onesie for your little girl. So I just am going to start with, I'll sit down by you all. I just have a few questions for you, and then we're going to do some motion and movement here, and we're going to bring their athletes up, and we're going to bring up some youth athletes from the community. So tell us, let's start with you, Delayna, what drew you into sport as a child?
I think first and foremost was the encouragement from my mom. So I grew up with a single mom, and so I think for her, like being in organized activities was really important. And I think sports were just always kind of entwined in what we did. It was a big part of our family. I'm from the Detroit area, and so Detroit sports were always on our TV, and we were, whether it be part of fans or just something to also get out the abundance of energy that a young child with a single mom who was like, please get this energy out. That's kind of how I was led to sport.
I love that. When I was in 5th grade, I said to my mom, there's cheerleading tryouts at my school. I want to try out. And she said, you don't want to cheer for some boys. You should do your own sport. And I said, Mom, cheerleading is a sport. And I had to convince her. But we agree, yes? Cheerleading is a sport. Okay, Alison, what drew you into sports?
For me, it was the challenge. I loved the physical challenge, the mental challenge, the emotional challenge. Started into many sports as I was young, and my brother was about 3 years older than me, so I was always trying to catch up to what he was doing. And we started in tennis together, and both took off from there. But just being able to develop again, the mental, the physical, and emotional challenge was so exciting for sport, especially tennis.
So, Alison, as you advanced to more, obviously, very elite levels, did that relationship with sport for you change?
I wouldn't say it changed. I would say it only deepened. The higher the level got, the more elite I was able to play and perform. The deeper that relationship became with tennis, became with my coaches, became with my family, the support that was around being able to perform and play at the elite level and win. And more than winning just on the court, but also off the court. And so that relationship with my sport just continued to deepen. It taught me so many things, how to win with humility, lose with grace, be grateful for all the opportunities that I was given.
Thank you. How about you, Delayna? As you became at a higher and higher level, what did that mean for your relationship with your sport?
Sure. I think at first it was really positive, and it deepened my relationship, and it created, as Alison mentioned, kind of a continued sense of growth and challenge. And it was, I think, all positive at first, but then at some point it also became detrimental at a point, because I think oftentimes sport can become your identity, and then setbacks or injury can then cause negative relationship with you in sport. So I find that there were a lot of ups and downs at certain points. And so I think, and this is something we talk a lot about with our student athletes, is separating your identity from your successes in sport and saying that we can be grateful for the experience and also step back and say, I'm more than this as well. There's more to me than being an athlete. And so I think that was something that I learned through that and an evolution of my relationship with sport.
So for this group, we're believing people would say you are a child of God, and that's intrinsically worthy. So I love that you do that with your athletes. Now, you started coaching even when you were in high school. So what drew you into kind of that leadership role in teaching young people the sport?
I think it was having great coaches and great relationships from a young age for me. I also think that something that was really powerful was majority of my coaches were women. And so having strong female leadership was really important to me. And that was something that I aspired to be and be for others. And so I would say that was a really, really big part of that.
We champion female coaches, and we're always working to do campaigns to increase the number of female coaches. And a local coach here from South Bend pointed out to me this morning that over the years, we have many, many more women in this room than we did when we started 20 years ago. So let's give ourselves a hand for that. So Alison, what does coaching mean to you? And I guess what brought you into coaching, and what does it mean to you?
Yes, well, similar to Delayna, just the love of the sport and the experiences I was able to have as a student athlete throughout my career. I wanted to have the opportunity to give back, and coaching was a pathway for that, and I was so fortunate to make a career out of it, and very blessed to be where I am today. And the relationship piece is what is most important to me, and what I value, and the connections with our student athletes, whom you'll get to see in a few minutes. But being able to build that connection, being able to build that relationship is so important today. I think there used to be in times past where it was so much just about the athlete, just about the ability, what they can do. And now it's so much about who they are and how you continue to grow and develop. And ultimately, I'm wanting to continue to learn and continue to be a better coach. And so they're helping me develop and grow just as much as I hope I'm helping them develop and grow as we continue this journey together.
It's beautiful. It is a journey, right? And the joy is in the journey. It's not in the outcome, but the journey. Thank you. That's beautiful. So Delayna, I already alluded to the fact that cheerleading has changed so much over the last 30 years. Can you speak to that and how you have managed your coaching in that kind of light?
Sure, and I think I look at this twofold. The athlete has changed, for one. I think that the values that these student athletes have are very different than the values and priorities of student athletes 10 years ago. And so I think that I've had to evolve what I prioritize in our team culture, but in our sport as well. And so that, I think, is the first thing. And that's by surrounding myself with great people and learning from others, whether that be colleagues or from others in the department, and bringing in outside resources. And then in terms of the actual sport, continuing to stay up to date as much as I can, but then also identifying my blind spots and hiring staff who can fill those roles. I think that as a female and as a coach, a lot of us think that we can do everything, and we can't. And I think that was probably one of the best things I learned, is that I can't be everything for my student athletes, but that I can bring in others to be those things as well, to help complement what I bring to the table and to fill other holes for us to best support and best help develop our athletes.
Beautiful. Surround ourselves with beautiful people. And that's what we've done here with Play Like a Champion. We're surrounded with beautiful people here. Can you tell? So these are coaches of youth and high school programs. So can you give some advice to them? What would you want to hear? What would be your best advice to these coaches? And then we'll bring your athletes up. You want to start with you, Alison?
My best advice would be just continue to come and lead from a place of love. I know for myself, as a player, as an athlete, having a coach believe in you, having a coach love you, care for you, that was so powerful. And yes, the X's and the O's and the strategy are very important, and we want to grow our athletes to a position of strength where they're winning and they're continuing to be successful. But the failures are going to happen, the struggles are going to happen, and them knowing and understanding and believing that you will be there with them through it all. So I think that's the piece where the athletes today, they want to be challenged, they want to be understood, and so knowing your love and care for them and your belief in them is so crucial, very important.
And I think to build off of what Alison said, to remember that you're not perfect, that your mistakes can be turned into learning opportunities for not only you, but for the young people that you coach. And just as a reminder that sometimes these roles feel thankless, but that you're making such a big impact, and that like you are, everyone is so grateful for what you're doing. Because as they mentioned, as we were walking in for this session, that you are the change that's happening right now, and it is so impactful. So just a big thank you for what you're doing in your communities.
And thank you both for taking your time to come and be with us today and share your wisdom. So let's meet your athletes. Harry and Esther, can you join us?
Okay, we're gonna get into some questions. I'll give Esther an introduction first. Esther is going into her sophomore year on the women's tennis team here at Notre Dame. She did deal with a tough foot injury this year, but she is fully recovered and back at it. But she has been so disciplined, so determined, so resilient in getting back out there. So we're excited that she's here today to share also some wisdom. Esther, what are your first memories of your sport, and what did you love most about playing and participating?
That's a tough one, 'cause there's so many things to love. My first memories are definitely like going and watching my sister practice, because she was the one that kind of got everyone into the sport. And I think when I was like 3 years old, my dad would bring me out onto the court and like feed me balls day in and day out, and I just absolutely fell in love with playing tennis through that. What was the next question?
The second one was, what did you just love about playing, competing in tennis?
I feel like tennis is kind of like a puzzle in a way, and I always like looked at it that way, and I was able to just like get my competitiveness out with it too. So it was, I don't know, I always just found it like a really intriguing sport to play. Like it was always something new every day to learn.
I'd like to intro here. This is Harry Clinton. He's a rising senior, actually is about to be a senior here at Notre Dame, and he is on the cheerleading team. Something I think that's really interesting specifically about the male athletes on our cheerleading team are that he did not cheer growing up. That's something that most of those athletes pick up when they enter college. Harry played basketball, soccer, ran, did all these things as a youth athlete and a high school athlete, and oftentimes what happens is they come to college and they're not playing sport at the Division I level, but they want to find another avenue to continue that passion, and then they find our sport. And so Harry has done so, and I will let him, he will be speaking more from a lens of his other sport experience, not cheerleading. So Harry, what are your first memories of sport, and what did you love most about participating in them?
Yeah, so my family are huge runners, huge triathlon family. So the moment I could walk, I was running. And I think one of my favorite memories is that when you do one of those races, you have a Sharpie, you write your numbers on your arm or your leg so like the people can see what number you are and associate with you. And before my dad would send off me or any of my 3 siblings, he would take the Sharpie and press it really hard in between our thumb and our index, and he'd call it our power dot. And he's like, if you ever feel tired, if you ever feel like you can't go faster, you feel like you can't do enough, look at the power dot and it'll give you power. And he did it with all of my siblings, and it was the silliest thing ever. But like, what made it great was that when I saw that, I didn't think I was getting power. I was like, oh, I am part of a family. This is my team. This is what I can be a part of. Like, I wasn't myself. I was my family. I think that was a huge thing. It's still a tradition we do today. Like, I was 20 and I was running a half marathon. My dad put a power dot on me. When my dad ran an Ironman, all 4 of my siblings and I put a power dot on him. So it's like, it's a very long running tradition, but it's like, what made sports important is that it was my family. It wasn't just me. It was something greater than myself.
Esther, how did your relationship change with tennis, with sport, as you grew older?
I think when I first started playing, it was definitely more of something I would do just to go have fun, be outside, I don't know, spend time with my family. And then I think as I got older, it became more of like an actual outlet for me to like be able to express myself and like find an identity through it. And my community, like some of my best friends I've met through my sport, just my mentors. So I think it definitely just became like an outlet for me to build like my people through it.
Harry, similarly, how did your relationship with sport change when you were still participating in the sports you did as a high school athlete, and then maybe kind of speak to your transition in college to cheerleading?
I think in high school, a lot of times, my high school was really big. It was 2,400 people. It was really hard to identify with that because there's such a diverse amount of people. It was a very diverse school. So I was definitely representing my team. But when I shifted to college, like I cheer for 4 different sports, go to all sorts of community events. I'm in the stadium in front of thousands upon thousands of people. So now I'm representing a school. I'm representing a collection of people, not just my team, not just my family. Like it has evolved into like, I feel so much bigger than myself, and it's an amazing experience.
Harry, what role did sports play in as the formation of you as a person today?
I think the biggest changes, especially as happened in college, I love that the value I have to my sport is not just my athletic ability, it's my leadership, it's my volunteer service, it's me as a human. And I think the coaches do an excellent job of that by being human with us. They're not some omnipotent entity who knows everything as only a coach to us. Like my coaches bring their family, they bring their kids, they let us, Coach Andrew has a pool party at our preseason every single year. They are people, and they show us that the sport is not our value, it's the person we are. And I think that's such a huge change from younger sports where you only see this coach because you're an athlete, not because you're a person.
And Esther, same for you. How has tennis formed you today?
I definitely think it played a huge role into like making the person I am like now. So I think how individual tennis is, like I think it helped me be more confident in myself as a person because I knew a lot of the things I achieved was because of like my discipline through it. So I think it just overall built a lot of confidence in myself. Yeah.
Maybe Harry and Esther, you could offer some advice to our young athletes that are coming up next.
Hold the microphone close to your mouth.
So our first question for you guys is, what behaviors and actions do you find helpful and supportive from your coaches that contribute to your like overall development?
My name is Santos Reyes. I play baseball and soccer.
Hi, my name is DK. I play soccer at Riley High School.
My name is Cassiana. I play soccer at Jefferson.
One of the more important things that I believe from a coach is when they tell you that it's okay and you know that if you did something wrong, they just say, it's okay, just try again the next time. And I feel like that's improved me as an athlete. Yeah.
obviously that feedback, coaches obviously are on the sidelines and they see things differently than when we do on the field. So seeing that positive, the negative, all of that, and they help you overall as a round player is tremendous as your experience as an athlete.
What is positive is that when they help us outside of the field when we're not in the game, and the negative is when they like she said, when you can't see like what's happening on the field.
Just to make sure we all voice what could be negative, what is something that is negative that could impact you as a player, whether that's your happiness or your performance as a player?
A negative thing that I see in myself is you got to put 100% in. If you don't put 100% in, I believe you won't succeed as much as you would hope for in yourself and your team.
I think having that support, a lot of the sports, it's a team thing. It's not just an individual thing. So having that support not only from your teammates, your coach, also your family and your peers, having those words of validation and stuff like that really impacts that.
Yeah, what they said, like the words that they say to you can really impact you.
And now we're going to call up our even younger speakers. They are elementary school age, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
So I apologize, I did not introduce my students earlier. Santos Reyes, he is an entrepreneur, a brilliant student. He goes to Purdue Polytech. I've known him since, 6 years. So he's a very dependable, responsible young man, and he plays a lot of sports. So I love to support him as much as possible. He helps out with our athletics at the elementary school level. He helps on game days, so he's been very important for that. Part of my role is making sure that the younger kids get to see the older kids, right? It's a true K through 12 experience. So they can see, hey, in a couple of years, I can be like Santos, helping out, refereeing, whatever it might be. And DK, we've recently met, but she is a great goalie. She was at Riley High School, and now she's actually coaching our soccer summer camps. So we do that, once again, helping the kids to see what they can be. And then Cassiana has helped. She gives me a hard time, her and her mom. They help out with game day operations, so she's awesome. And then our youngest students here, they're all from Monroe. As I've communicated earlier, we started 4th and 5th grade athletics this year, and Monroe, they just killed it in our spring season. They kind of cleaned up with track and also girls flag football. So these are some of our athletes.
To start us off, this is very broad, but what is your favorite part about sports?
Making friendships and making new goals for myself.
Having fun and participating in the games.
I get to participate in every single one of my sports, but I play all of them to see which ones that I want to play on all the way up.
And this question's kind of to all the athletes up here. When you play a game or a competition, there are obviously fans watching you play. Do you find that helpful or do you find it distracting?
I find it helpful because I know people are cheering for me and my team.
I find that it could be stressful sometimes, but I enjoy the fans because most of them are always cheering us on. Yeah.
It's helpful because they motivate you in the game, like when you're doing something and they motivate you while you're doing it.
It's helpful because they cheer me on and it makes me feel like I can do better than what I already do.
It's helpful because of the reason that you hear all the people cheering for you and it might help the stress.
It's very supportive because not only do we play because we love the sports, but the fans also love the sports. They like seeing it, the intensity. So.
Like the fans? I mean, tennis is a pretty quiet sport, so it's not like it gets really rowdy. So I can't really speak on that.
I think mine's the exact opposite. My sport wouldn't exist unless fans existed. So I love the fans, but it's also very stressful because I want to do a good job for them. I think that's everything. Thank you, guys.
So I have a question. I'm going to start with Esther and Harry first. Can you tell us what your coaches here who are with you, what do they mean to you?
Alison is definitely my biggest mentor here at Notre Dame. She's helped me through so much, and I wouldn't be in the position where I'm at right now if it wasn't for her. So I think definitely just a really great lifelong mentor. Yeah.
I definitely think Coach Delayna is, for many people, but especially for me, she's like my rock. She's like the most consistent part of my life ever. She will always be 100% honest. She's always open, but she's also not someone who feels like she needs to overreach. Like when you need help, you know you can go to her, but she's also not always seeking out like, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? So she's always present and always just who she needs to be, which is what I love.
That's beautiful. I bet that was good for you to hear. Now, the younger athletes, you're here because you have a relationship with Mr. McDowell here. So what does he mean to you? Can you share what he means to you?
Yannick, he's been an uncle, he's been a friend, he's been a listener. But yeah, I've known him for quite a bit. He's acknowledged me in sports here. He brought me here today. Yeah, he's just a big part of my life. He's a great guy.
Or you can talk about your dad. Right? Your dad means to you.
He means the world to me.
Cool.
He's all right.
We just met this year, but it feels like we've known each other for a very long time.
I just met him as well, but he's a really, really great coach, really good guy, and obviously he's bringing opportunities to the younger generation and bringing them to the light, so I acknowledge and appreciate him a lot.
Well, our Play Like a Champion community acknowledges and appreciates you very much, Yannick. And we had an award that we instituted 2 years ago called the Jim Power Award. And Yannick, you are going to be our recipient for the Jim Power Award this year. So if you can come up, please. So we honor all that you have done for each of these young athletes, but for the 3,000 other children in South Bend who are now playing at their schools because of your position and your leadership. Thank you so much.
I'll go ahead and read the award we're going to give to Yannick here. So for more than a decade, Jim Power, as we all know in this room, has led Play Like a Champion's efforts to provide a team for every child, especially in under-resourced communities across the country, by fostering kinship and through his unwavering commitment to keep showing up, which is something we heard up here, and I think many of us in this room, that means the world, that Jim keeps showing up. Jim has demonstrated the power of collective impact and created so many opportunities for our kids. And so Yannick McDowell has decades of experience as a caring coach and an exceptional administrator. As Kristen mentioned, in just the first year of his current position as the Youth Sports and Community Engagement Coordinator. Well, we've actually said that's a good title. For the South Bend Community School Corporation, we've mentioned a couple times, 3,000 kids that he's removed the barriers for, providing opportunity for them to play sports at their home schools. He's really placed an emphasis on creating a caring community of administrators, coaches, officials, and parents through trauma-informed positive youth development training. And he demonstrates the path forward for a nurturing and sustaining a team for every child in our home city here at South Bend. So give it up for Yannick McDowell. Aging Dr. Power. Aging Dr. Power. All right. All right, we are going to take a quick break here, give you a chance to stretch a little, relax, and then here about 10:30, we're going to begin our next session. So quick change in the schedule. We had a breakout session scheduled at 10:30, and one of our speakers unfortunately had to cancel. So we are all going to be in here. We're going to take you through the Parent Like a Champion workshop. So if you've seen that before, you'll get to see it again. But I think most of you are probably new to that. So Kristen and I are going to lead that there, and we'll give you an opportunity to see what it looks like when we work with parents across the country. So 10:30, right back in here, and we'll do that next. Right.
All right, everyone, we're going to start our final session, which is Parent Like a Champion. And this is a workshop designed for youth and high school parents. The way you would present this to high school parents is obviously different to parents of young athletes. But we're going to show you the youth workshop here. And, you know, we elevate it for the older athletes. So many of you in here do this. You do this brilliantly. But this is like a train the trainer portion for anybody who's new. So we know we're training a lot of new trainers, and we hope you'll enjoy doing the parent workshop. It's really my favorite one because it's quick. It's an hour, and you get to talk to parents, and they leave grateful. They come in usually like, no, I'm not so happy to be here, but they leave grateful. Yeah. And this one that's up there is the Catholic version. And so, as you know from the training, we obviously pull anything out that's faith-based when we're in a school that is not of that nature. Okay, so what I'm going to do is invite you to step into the shoes right now of a parent. Imagine yourself, maybe you are a parent, imagine yourself as a parent of a young athlete, 8th grade or below, and think like that parent, okay? So, parents, welcome. We always start with a prayer. So, dear God, bless this event. Thank you for the parents in the room. Thank you for our children. And we ask you to help us to raise our children, that the ultimate goal is for them to play with you in heaven. Amen. Amen. Your Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen. Okay, so parents, what are you hoping your child will take from their youth sports activities? What do you want your kids to learn? To get better, sure. Yeah, we want them to go become better, faster, stronger. Absolutely. What else?
How to work with others.
Teamwork, huge. Yeah, and that's a life skill then. Yeah, and we learn that in sports. What else do you want your kids to take from sports? Sportsmanship, yeah. I mean, all of those lessons and values and character traits that we know they can learn, they can get. Yes. Yes, I mean, we're gonna have adversity, and you got to manage it. And coaches also help kids manage it, but we as parents can help our kids manage that adversity as well. And we'll give you some advice on that as we move forward.
Learn to love these games so that they can play for a lifetime.
Love the game to lead to physical literacy, a love of game, sport forever, right? We know it's good to move, not just when we're children, but our whole life.
Just enjoy being active.
Just have fun being active, yeah. So, oh yes, Anna. Sport is a microcosm of life. The lessons they're learning on the playing field will help them, and as they are in the classroom, as they graduate, as they're a community member. Thank you. Yeah, transferable. So, I mean, all of these things are what we hope our kids will learn, but I didn't really hear anything about our faith. So for those of you who are, from a Catholic perspective, is there something distinct about Catholic-sponsored sports? Fairness, yeah.
Fairness in the game itself and fairness in terms of outside of the game.
Sure, and that's about justice. Yeah. Again, I think that's something hopefully all sports will teach, but we do kind of hold that as a cardinal virtue, that sense of justice. We'll talk about cardinal virtues later. Anything else? Oh, good, we got some hands. Sean.
Whole spirituality aspect.
So, whole spirituality, how is that shown in sport?
It could be started by before a game or after a game, the kinship coming together. It could be two of the sport teams meeting for a prayer before game, after game, just knowing that the reason that you're here today maybe has like a higher cause.
That's beautiful. So just the coming together in team, if we elevate that and call attention to God's presence within and among the athletes, it can be spiritual. Yes, thank you.
Building on that, that whole concept of finding Christ in others, and that, God gives you certain gifts, whether it be sports related, intellectually, and the gifts that God gives to you, like say through sport, you develop that gift, that's your gift back to God.
Oh, beautiful. Gift back to God. Yeah.
And our coaches should model our mission. So our faith has to come out of how our coaches
coaches interact with our young people and with the fans and with the officials.
Absolutely. So it's not just parents introducing this idea of spirituality, but coaches are trained in this philosophy as well, so that everybody is introducing God's presence in sport. Marquise.
It's just an open opportunity to get engaged in faith, I guess. There's some kids who aren't religious at all until they join a team. And like you said, the pregame prayer beforehand. And I just think of, we've all watched the football game where the team's going to go kick the game-winning field goal, and the first thing you see is everybody lock arms. They all get down on the knee, or they all bond together. The quarterback maybe he's head over his towel, he's praying. It's literally right in front of you that spirituality is in this arena, it's in this gym, it's in this building, and for me it's just an open opportunity. So if you weren't engaged in it before you join a sport, and the first thing you do is I pray this goes in, I pray that I make it. It's that opportunity for faith. It just opens the door for you to engage in that.
Thank you. Excellent answers. We never get that many good answers from parents. And so I usually wrap this up by saying, we have deeply held Christian values. And if we don't live up to those in sport, we shouldn't even have our sports, right? So embrace those values, talk about them, capitalize on them, and allow them to be present. Even just saying these, God is with you, helps that presence to be felt. All right, next.
All right, so those of you who were in the youth training yesterday will know that when Kristen's speaking, you get the good stuff, and then I come in, and well, so there are just, show me up. No, you're good. Couple things that I think are really important for parents to understand, right? When you get your kids involved in youth sports, and you're here today, spending an hour with us, this play like a champion approach that we've gone through with your coaches, now with parents, certainly your administrators, your league, the culture we're trying to create here is two main things. One, it's research-based, right? So it's not just me or Kristen standing up here telling you what we think about youth sports and our opinion about this, that, or the other. No, it's rooted in fact. It's rooted in research that's been done over the past 20 years. And the things we know to be true, not only about why kids play sports, but how best to develop them. And I think that's incredibly important, right? We want to provide what's best for our children, so we look at the psychology and the behavior and all that stuff that goes into it behind it. The other piece is that it's child-centered, right? Everything we do in youth sports, and high school kids, still youth, right? Still minors, so to speak, has to be about the kids, right? And so that has a meaning, and we're going to talk about here through this session what that means and how we make it a youth, child-centered activity. So we kind of go by our mantra, right? Play like a champion today. And we're going to talk about what it means to play and why that's so important for our kids and how you can be a part of that as parents. We're going to talk about what it means to play like a champion and how we can use the cardinal virtues as sort of a guiding framework for how we as parents can help build the best experience for our kids and help contribute to that along the way. But this today aspect, I think this is really something that goes throughout all of what we do, everything we talk about when we talk about what it means to play like a champion. The Greeks had a few words for time, right? The Greeks tend to have a few words for everything. Chronos is what we think of as time, right? Time on the clock, right? I only have to listen to this guy speak for this many more minutes. And then Kristen will be back and it'll all be okay again. But they also had a word kairos. Kairos isn't the time on the clock. Kairos is about a moment in time. And we might say a moment in time where God can act. And we believe the youth sports experience is exactly that. It's a moment in time where God is acting in and through our children. And in and through us in the stands, right? As parents. So how do we understand that and how do we best live that out in the moment? When we talk about sports, as coaches, we often talk about, focus. We want our kids to focus. And as parents, we'd probably like our kids to focus as well sometimes. But how much more true does that need to be for us? And I get it, right? When you're at one of your kids' youth sports events, you're probably thinking about the next event you have to go to, and then the sporting event after that. If you've got a big family, right, you might spend all day Saturday going from place to place. And gosh, when am I going to get groceries? And I got this work project I got to work on, and all these different things, right? Got to do meals and all the things that go into being a parent. But if we can just pause, just for a moment, when we watch our children play sports, just pause and be in that moment. Be present. Be in that moment where God is acting and enjoy the experience. I think if we let that filter throughout our entire youth sports experience, that can be so beneficial for us, let alone for our kids, right? That we truly get to stop and enjoy the experience, because I look around this room and I know some of us have had kids that have grown up all too quickly, right? And those third grade sports experiences become high school sports experiences, become, man, I wish I could still watch them go out on that field and play. And when we spend too much time thinking about what's next, gosh, is my kid going to make the next best team? Are they going to play in high school? Are they going to play in college? Spoiler alert, we'll show you some statistics later, probably not. Those types of things, if we just come back to today, I think we can have a real impact on us and on our kids. So, I'm going to show you a quick video. Introduces a little bit about the play like a champion approach, and then we'll talk through what it means to play and to play like a champion, and some tips and tools for how we as parents can be a part of that for our kids.
Play Like a Champion's mission is to build an inclusive, play-focused youth sports culture that helps children to develop morally, socially, and spiritually, as well as athletically. Play Like a Champion educates youth sports administrators, coaches, and parents to ensure that children have the best possible youth sport experience. Through its Team for Every Child initiative, Play Like a Champion works with leaders in economically distressed communities to guarantee that children, regardless of their athletic ability or family's income, have an enriching youth sport experience. This workshop welcomes you, a nationwide community of concerned youth sports leaders, committed to a vision of youth sports that puts the needs of children ahead of winning.
So with our coaches and as sports parents in this organization that we're presumably talking about here, your coaches have been through a coach training where we go through a series of videos, and they meet some expert coaches at the University of Notre Dame, primarily, who talk about some things that they can do as coaches to help provide the right experience for their kids. And so that gives you a little flavor of what that looks like. Also, for your sort of understanding in this room, we'd normally give all of our parents a manual. I know some of you saw this yesterday in the coach training, but it's a manual that they can follow along throughout the presentation. It's theirs to take home, and it's got some really good information in there that goes right along with what we share here. So if you want to take a look at that later, we've got a couple of them. You can take a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. I think these statistics are, well, they're alarming, but they paint a pretty bleak picture of where we're at in our society today when it comes to physical activity and youth sports. You can read these, so I won't read them to you, but I will point out the one that always strikes me, or the couple of them here that strike me the most. You know, there's a lot of statistics out there that show that kids, it says 8 to 12, but you can take it all the way up to 17, 18 years old, are spending a whole lot more time on screens these days than they are actually physically active. And that's a complete flip from probably when most of us were children, and certainly most of human history. And that has some impact right, in health outcomes. And so you can see on the bottom here, we look at some of the latest statistics on obesity, 20% of US kids and adolescents, 20%. So almost 15 million kids in the United States, 2 to 19 years old, are considered obese because they're not getting enough physical activity. Only 20 to 28% of kids, depending on where you live, are getting the recommended 60 minutes of physical activity each day, right? Some places that's even far lower than that 20 to 28%. It should be 100%, right? We should be getting all of our kids the physical activity they need every day. So clearly, as parents, we've got to make sure we lead a change in how that's being, the opportunities that are being offered for our kids in our communities. Yeah, I'm going to put up, here's a list of some causes for concern that we've identified. Which of these stand out to you? Anybody have any thoughts about one of these that jumps out in terms of something that you see and you say, yeah, that's something we're dealing with, or something that we see in our community? OT?
I would say 3 and 5, excessive the pressure from coaches and parents, and parents and coaches that live through their kids.
Yeah.
They're putting that pressure and expectation on them instead of allowing them to authentically have their own sports experience for whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
So, and putting all of that stress and trauma for whatever reasons that you have on that child, creating trauma and stress that's unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So the stress and pressure we're putting on our kids and also living through them, we'll share maybe here in a little bit some of the ways we even do that inadvertently, right? As parents, we may not even mean to put pressure on our kids, but we can do it in some subtle ways, yeah.
Specialization at early ages.
Specialization at early ages, yeah. You had something as well? Yeah, and those actually kind of marry together a little bit, right? As we create a society that focuses more on specialization, we're leaving kids out, right? There's rising costs, there's an exclusivity of you got to be this good to be on this team or whatever. You know, it's an interesting statistics as research has been done really over the last 45 years into long-term athlete development. We'll show you here in a second what that looks like these days. They've actually done research into specialization and the impact or the ways it can help and hinder kids. What they've actually found is that for almost all team sports, there's no benefit to specializing before the age of 14, 15 years old. Right? Think about that. So we live in a society today where I'm sure many of you and your kids have been pressured to specialize as young as 5 or 6 years old, right? Pick a sport. Yeah, travel teams and all this different stuff, right? And all of a sudden it puts incredible pressure on families from a cost perspective, from a time perspective, but also just from, well, wait, I grew up, I wanted my kids, I played multiple sports, I want my kids to play multiple sports, and that's just supposedly not the reality here today. And yet the science still tells us that is what's best for our kids, playing those multiple sports for most of their childhood. So we've got to be cognizant of that. Yeah, anything else jump out up here? Yeah.
I would say time. No longer is a 10-minute drive to the ballpark. It's a 3-hour drive.
Yeah. No longer a 10-minute drive to the ballpark. It's a 3-hour drive, right? Sometimes it's a whole weekend, those kind of things, right? Yeah, back there.
Professionalization. What has begun is, your local paper covering Friday Night Lights has become huge organizations just covering high school sports and making stars out of these people who are still learning in the flesh.
Yeah, no question. The professionalization, a little peek behind the curtain here. Depending on our high school sessions, depending on where we're at and if we know the culture or whatever, we might talk a little bit about the pressure of the, sort of NIL culture we have now, right? Where kids are actually very much professional athletes at the high school level, and certainly some of our high schools are trying to navigate that space. So we talk about that. Yeah, in the back, take one more.
Kids do not go out and organize sports on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no entree outside of organized sports.
Yes, there's no free play is what we call that, right? There's no free play anymore in sports. And there's actually studies that demonstrate that that's got a really detrimental effect on kids, is that they need to have that free play for their whole child development, right? So I think you guys are on to clearly not only this list, but we can probably list more in terms of things that are wrong with sports today. We don't want to focus so much on the negative, though. We want to focus on the positive. So I mentioned a few minutes ago, 45 years of research started by Dr. Istvan Balyi in 1990 about long-term athlete development. And so we share this with coaches in particular, but we want to share it with you briefly as well. I'll show you the most recent model here, but if you just get online and Google long-term athlete development or American development model, you'll find all the things you can possibly find on this. And you'll find a lot of really great tips for what kids should be doing developmentally at different ages. Chances are it's a little bit different than what you think, and maybe in that whole mode of specialization, what you've been told. Because it turns out at 6, 7, 8 years old, it's much more fundamental motor skills. It's still that fundamental stage, and that means fundamental skills and making sure it's enjoyable. You know, the thing they found when they were researching, and by the way, this research all focused on how do we develop Olympic athletes. So this is elite athletes was the basis of this research. But what they found was, if you don't love the sport, if you don't really want to get after it, you will never have the motivation necessary to actually excel in that sport. Now, the reality is most kids aren't going to be Olympic athletes. They're not going to be professional. They're not even going to be college athletes, right? They'll sort of peak somewhere before that, so to speak. But either way, that love of the sport is critical. And so we've got to base that. Now, we've learned throughout the years lots of different things about youth development, right? We know that genetics, hey, if you've got two former professional athletes or even college athletes as parents, you got a much better chance of having great success or being an elite athlete yourself. If you've got two hacks as parents when it comes to athletics, I'm sorry. I apologize to my daughter all the time. Today, we look at the American development model when it comes to long-term athlete development. And this is what you'd find if you search ADM or American Development Model. It'll take you right to the U.S. Olympic Committee's website. Now, the really cool thing I want to point out here, because you'll see a lot of it's the same, one of the things that we've learned throughout the years is that there's not only age ranges that change for our kids, but also experience, right? So if your kid starts playing a sport at 12 and some other kid has been playing it for 3 or 4 years, guess what? At the beginning, the kid who's been playing it for a while is going to look better. But we know that your child, even starting late in a sport, if they have a natural ability, will catch up pretty quick. And so this explains some of that, but it also encourages lifelong physical literacy. And I think that's the thing. Physical literacy is a concept that talks primarily about the fundamental motor skills and things like that, the development of kids, even from the infant stage all the way up through growth and development. But lifelong physical activity, or in the long-term athlete development model I showed you, they called it active for life. Right? That's what we really want to get to. As parents, we want to make sure that whenever they stop playing, whether it's high school, college, whether they're, Michael Jordan and they play till they're 40 or whatever, right? At some point, they're going to move on with life. And have we given them the tools and skills to live a healthy life beyond that so that they aren't falling into some of those health categories we talked about earlier where they're out of shape and then they have real health consequences later in life? So I encourage you to look into all of that. What do kids say? Why do kids play sports? If we're gonna do play, we got to ask the kids, why do you play? So I heard it out there. Why do kids play sports?
They said it. They responded, have fun, be part of the team.
Yeah.
Those were their answers.
Yeah. When you actually ask kids, and you guys obviously saw kids this morning, this is what they say. Now, they love all the different things on here. When you ask kids, this is the list that kids give. And I've seen this study done dozens of different times by many different universities and groups. And the answers are always the same. Having fun is the #1 reason that kids play sports at any age. Now, do they do it to compete? Absolutely, right? They want to compete. They want to be a part of a team. They want to socialize. Those are usually pretty high up the list. Do they want to win? Yes, they want to win. In this particular study, winning came in no higher than 7th or 8th, though. So they have a perspective when kids look at sports. Yes, they want to win. They want to strive to win. But it's not the most important thing, and we'll talk about what that means here in just a bit. Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, said it's important that sports remain a game. Only then will it do good for body and soul. A couple years ago, Kristen and I had the privilege of going to the Vatican and taking part in a conference on youth sports. And we had an opportunity to actually meet Pope Francis. And when he shared with our group thoughts on sport, he talked about 2 particular things that I think are really valuable for us to remember as parents. The first he talked about is sports creates, he said fraternity, but we might say community, right? It fosters that. And we all know that here in this room. We've been talking about it a lot over the last couple of days. But certainly for our parents, when we're talking to parents in our community, it's important to relate. That community is an important thing, whether it's a parish community, a school community, a recreational community, a city, whatever it is. That fraternity is something that sports is supposed to foster. And we get that, right? There are few things more energizing than Friday night with a stadium full of people, or Saturday or Sunday with a stadium full of people, all building towards a common cause. And that can, frankly, be something that's rare in today's world, but sports is still one of the places where we get that. The other thing Pope Francis talked about was that sports provides a growth in virtue. We're going to come on to that in a few minutes. But all of that requires that it remains a game, right? You can't go beyond that. Kristen, you want to come back up? Okay. All right. You guys get more of me for a few minutes. Oh, she's going to come back up for the good stuff. All right, good. So she's going to throw me to the wolves here because sometimes that's what happens when we talk about this. Kristen mentioned that when we do the high school session, it looks a little different. So this is one of the areas where it looks a little different, right? Because if you're talking to a group of varsity parents or, parents from all ages in high school, what playing time looks like, obviously, is a little different than talking to younger parents. But I'll ask you this. I won't ask you to show hands or call you out, but we've done research on this, and we've done enough with parents to know sort of the statistics behind this. How many of you, if given the choice, would rather see your child play as much as possible versus see the team win if it means your child sits on the bench? I can tell you anecdotally that about 95% of parents say they would much rather see their child play regardless of the results of the game. I haven't quite figured out the other 5% of parents who just want to see the team win and watch their kids sit on the bench, but that's something we got to work towards figuring out, right? So if that's the case, and we know from talking to kids that their priority is to play, right? They want to have fun. They want to participate. We heard that for ourselves this morning. They want to play, and we want to see them play. But we also talk to our coaches, and we make sure that playing time is a priority, right? And so we emphasize that. We actually also emphasize participation at the high school level as well. How can we find ways to make sure that every child is a part of the team, right? And we can talk about, and sometimes we get into, as a side note here, what's the policy on cuts? We talked about some of this yesterday in the session I did yesterday afternoon, and how do we think creatively as an organization to make sure that we get as many kids participating as possible, whether that's in sort of varsity sports or intramurals or things like that. But as parents, as we come back to the sort of parent approach, we want to make sure we're encouraging and emphasizing that participation at the youth level is the most important thing. And as parents, we can support that by making sure that when we are in the stands or supporting our coach, we advocate for that. It's real easy to be excited when our own kid is playing. It's sometimes a little harder to remember that when other kids are playing, that's their moment as well, right? In order for everybody to get to play, sometimes our kid does need to have to sit on the bench for a little bit. We've got to rotate kids through. But the importance is to think a little more holistically at the youth level. And if the coach is doing things right, then obviously you want, when the kids are on the bench, they're also learning something, right? They're also engaged in the game, and we want to make sure that's a part of this participation as well. Now I'm going to bring Kristen back up here, and you guys can enjoy her.
Stuff now.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Pete. So in regard to the genetics factoring in, my son Danny really wanted to play D1 baseball, and he wasn't getting any opportunity to do that. So he's like, "Mom, couldn't you have been a little taller?" But he ended up playing D3 at DePaul University and had an amazing time. And when he got to D3, he's like, "You know what? I can play football too." So he did both, and it was a great opportunity, a lot of fun. And D3 doesn't give scholarships for sport, but it was the football coach who told him, "Hey, how about we give you half your tuition, right? For your character." So there's really opportunities at all those levels. So let's do champion. What we'll do is we usually animate these so that there's nothing up there. We're kind of leading the witness because we're showing you some of the qualities. We get parents talking again. Name some qualities of a champion. And again, it's blank, so they're not seeing it. When you think of a champion, what qualities do you think of? Just yell them out. Hard work. And I'd like to have a whiteboard so that you have a visual in front, and invite one of the parents to come up and write on the board. What else? Characteristic of a champion. leadership, resilience, focus, commitment, accountability, humility, good one,
A good attitude.
good attitude,
A good teammate.
good teammate,
Building other leaders.
building others, good teammate, building up others, discipline, yep. Okay, good. So we got a really good list here. And what Play Like a Champion does is we group these qualities of a champion into 3 categories. The first one are related to achievement-related values, hard work, determination, discipline. And we know that our kids have to learn those to get better. But we don't want to stop at just those values. We want to move to the second category, which are social values. How do our kids learn how to relate to each other socially? Humility, teamwork, lifting up others. And then we don't stop there. We move to the next one, which it says a desire to win. Of course, we're striving to win. It's the social contract of sport, but we need to do so with integrity if we're a champion. We've got to do it within the rules. And so there's a broad outlook of what it means to be a champion. And it's interesting that none of you said the winner. Now, maybe it's because you know you're at a workshop on character. And, you know, sure, the champion is the winning team, but we need, as parents, to expand our kids' knowledge and insight into what else makes a champion and going into these qualities of character. How can we do this as parents? Talk about it with your kids. When you see your child be humble, praise him or her. When you see someone on your child's team lifting someone up, talk about it afterwards with your kids. Don't just talk about the outcome or the scores or the skills. Talk about the character that you saw in play. Maybe it was something the other team did. Applaud that, because when we encourage and applaud things that our children have done, what happens? They repeat. They repeat and they repeat. So be intentional about focusing on that character. Pete's not going to let me have the clicker. So we have a video at this point talking about it.
Play Like a Champion today has developed a philosophy to help coaches set goals for motivation and achievement, develop positive relationships with their players and parents by promoting a climate of respect and sportsmanship, and by building self-confidence and responsibility through decision-making power. We call this the GROW approach. Goals plus relationships plus ownership equals winning. If coaches follow this simple formula, their players will evolve as people as well as athletes and ultimately become champions. GROW is based on self-determination theory, which is a psychological theory of motivation. We will teach you how to best motivate your athletes to be successful on the field and in life.
So you see the value of this is we teach coaches grow, we teach parents grow. This becomes a comprehensive approach so that everyone in the sport environment is working with the same language, the same knowledge, the same ideas to help the athletes overall grow. So goals are where grow starts. We encourage parents, coaches will typically be focusing on team goals. And so we encourage parents to sit down with your child and ask them, don't set goals for them, but ask them, we bring in this O for ownership, give them the opportunity to set their own goals that are individual in nature. When you say to your child, what are your goals, have them think about the goals that they're setting. If they were to achieve those, how will it make the team better and stronger? So we're putting the emphasis not just on individuality and self, but that this is a team and that I am part of that team, I'm part of that community, and I have a responsibility to elevate that whole team. It's not just about me. So we're teaching humility right there. So there are 3 levels of goals in our approach. The first level are physical goals. This makes sense. X's and O's, the skills of the sport. Don't stop there. A lot of times people stop at those. We also suggest setting mental goals. Mental goals have to do with attitude, effort, and attention. What's your child's attitude like? What is their effort? Are they trying their hardest every practice and every game? And what's their attention? Are they listening to their coach? And are they respecting their coach and trying to do what the coach is saying? And so those are intentional. And these are what Anna said. These, when our children work on these intentional mental goals, it's going to make them better in life. But then don't stop there. We got physical goals, we got mental goals, and then there are third level goals that we call moral goals. And this is where, like Chris said, we want our kids to learn sportsmanship. Set a goal. What kind of moral goal can we set for our kids? What would be a good moral goal, parents, for your kids? Respect others, and that can go to respect your coach, respect the game, respect the official, respect your opponent. Amazing moral goal. What else? Yeah.
Control your attitude and effort.
Yeah, I'm going to control my attitude and my effort. And that thinks about mental, but control is really about a sportsmanship goal because we can control that, right? Excellent. Thanks, Marquise. What else?
Honesty.
Honesty, right. Honesty is a beautiful moral goal. Xavier.
Recognizing those who made it possible to play.
So thanking your coach, right? Thanking your coach. So when my kids were growing up and we would drive to a practice or mostly a competition, I think, I would say to them, hey, what are your 3 goals today? So in this moment. So instead of me saying, do this, don't do that, I would give the ownership, and my kids were kind of coached. They know, okay, Mom, my physical goal is this, my mental goal is this, and my moral goal is this. And then when they got in the car on the ride home, all I had to say was, did you meet your goals? There's the ownership. I didn't lecture them on the way home about what I thought I saw or didn't see, but did you meet your goals and how? So there's a lot of ownership in this kind of goal setting. All right, and relationships. So we're going to talk later about your relationships in the sport environment, but here's where we talk about if we say our kids should be learning to be a good teammate, we're learning to be encouraging, ask your child, how's the team getting along? Are you supporting your teammates, and how? Is there someone maybe who's not quite fitting in? What can you do to support that athlete to be part of the team? So place the emphasis on those relationships.
I'm back. Now, as parents, it's not parent sports or adult sports, right? It's youth sports, high school sports. So we want to make sure that we remember that we are really guests at our kids' games, and that's the O in ownership, right? Kristen beautifully talked about how ownership really fits well with the G as well, right? All of this kind of blends and fits together. But when we give our kids an opportunity to set their own goals and to play their own game, we give them ownership. Now, one of the things that I think was probably mentioned earlier at the very beginning where we talked about some of the things we want our kids to get out of youth sports is becoming a better leader, right? Becoming a better teammate. Those types of things that we know as adults are really valuable when we start working and living in society, right? Well, how do we do that? We actually start building that by giving them ownership, because when we give them ownership, we give them responsibility and we help to build that leadership. So we work with our coaches, your kids' coaches, for strategies to do that. We talk about things like encouraging the team to work together in doing things like circles, shouting out their teammates when their teammates, do something well. Those type of things that give the kids really ownership to build relationships, but also give kids ownership over the experience, because that quickly evolves into, okay, this is our team, right? And we are sort of, again, when we set goals, these are our goals. We are leading the charge here. I read recently, it was an academic book about sports, youth sports, and one of the authors talked about his own experience in youth sports. He was a football player in high school, and he said he'll never forget this experience with one of his coaches where he was driving down the field as a quarterback. He was a freshman or a sophomore, and he was used to looking at the sideline and getting the play, right? And at one point, he looked at the sideline for the play, and the coach said, "You go." He said, "Wait, what?" The coach said, "No, you call the play." And so we kind of fumbled over to the huddle and called the play, and threw, I don't know, a 3 or 4 yard pass, and it was okay. It wasn't perfect, but it worked out well enough. And so we looked over at the coach again. The coach said, "No, go ahead." The coach stopped giving him the plays and let him call it. And what I thought was most interesting about this, for our kids' sake, he said it completely changed the way he saw the game. All of a sudden, he was reading the defense. He was seeing the game in front of him. He wasn't just looking to the sideline in order to make sure he was doing what the coach wanted him to do. And how often, even as parents, sometimes we think we're yelling encouragement from the sideline to our kids, right? Or the dreaded, as a youth sports coach, I used to just listen to the other sideline, everybody yelling, shoot, shoot. And half the time, I'd been trying to work on passing during the, right? And first of all, they're advising the kids to take a terrible shot, right? This is with basketball, soccer, whatever it may be. There is no angle for the shot. And they're guarded by 3 different other kids, right? So a lot of times they're wrong. But that's not what we want to do as parents or as coaches. We want to give the kids the freedom to make that play on their own, right? And to play the game, to see what's in front of them. That's where they get the true enjoyment. And so we want to work on that as ownership. Now, do we want to be encouraging? Absolutely, right? Cheer on our kids. Make sure they know we love watching them play the games they love. But at the same time, it is their game, right? So we want to make sure we do that. And that leads us to winning. So goals plus relationships plus ownership equals winning. Now, this play like a champion approach, this grow approach, is not about saying, well, we just throw winning out the window, right? Everything's great. We'll all give you a trophy, and it doesn't matter the score at the end of the game. That's not it at all. Competition is a beautiful thing, right? And in fact, kids love to compete. That was on the list up there, right? Frankly, if you don't tell them the score, they will count the score in their own head most of the time, right? So it's not about that. It is about the right perspective. So the word competere, the Latin root of competition, means to strive together. Competition isn't about a W or an L at the end of it. It's about the journey it takes to get there, the hard work, the determination, the goals that are set, the relationships that are built, the leadership that is learned. And then you compete in the game, and win or lose, hopefully we've achieved some of those goals, we've grown a little bit, and yes, hopefully we taste some success, right? Hopefully we win some games. Frankly, any good coach, and hopefully your children's coaches understand this, is going to understand sometimes you can learn a lot more from a loss, right? We don't like to lose, but as parents, we can also understand our kids might learn a whole lot more from a loss than they even do from a win. So hopefully they get a little bit of both, right? I think that's really valuable. Side note, I've always loved, I've heard some of the top coaches in the country talk that way. Gino Auriemma, head coach at UConn women's basketball, when asked about them setting the record for most consecutive wins, they ended up losing in the Final Four. This is a few years back after 110, 111 wins straight. Somebody asked him how he processed that. I thought this was so instructive for us as parents and coaches. So how did you process that, losing in the Final Four? And you might expect him to say, gosh, it was really tough, and this is an uber competitive person who's literally paid millions of dollars to win games. And he said, I felt a sense of relief. He said, I actually had kids on that team who had never lost a college game. And I thought it would have been a crime for them to graduate college without learning what it's like to lose. Wow. Now, if somebody who's literally paid millions of dollars to win can have that perspective at the highest levels of sport, certainly as a youth sports parent, we can try to have that perspective as well. I think that's really valuable. So you might have noticed, if you've been paying attention, we talked earlier about virtue a couple of times. Pope Francis talked about the idea of sports building virtue. This grow approach fits pretty well what we call the cardinal virtues. So St. John Paul II said, while playing sports, Christians find help in developing the cardinal virtues: fortitude, temperance, prudence, and justice. The cardinal virtues actually go way back to Aristotle, right? They go back to Greek philosophy, popularized in the Catholic tradition, the Christian tradition, by St. Thomas Aquinas in the Middle Ages. And the word cardinal actually means hinge, right? So we might say these are the hinge virtues, the virtues on which the moral life hinges. And if we're trying to develop great moral young people, well, then this is a pretty good place to start. So when you teach goals and you help kids to set their own goals, you're really teaching them fortitude, right? You're teaching them to persist, to be determined, to work towards something, to achieve it, and then set another goal and keep going. When we build relationships, and it was mentioned earlier here, we're creating an understanding of justice, right? Of what we owe to others. Whether that's our teammates, our coach, our officials, our opponents. Ownership is about prudence. You know, if we always just give kids the answers, they don't learn how to make wise decisions themselves. And that's what prudence is, the ability to make wise decisions. But sports is a great laboratory for that, right? When we allow them to fail and then learn to overcome that failure and succeed and have some successes, that can build the virtue of prudence. And then finally, winning goes with temperance, right? Temperance is about balance. It's about perspective and moderation. It's not to say winning's a bad thing or winning's the only thing. It's finding that balance in the middle that's so important. Do you want to talk about champion sports parenting?
Sure. So this is the heart of this workshop. We want our children to be champions, and we also can be champions in our attitude and our relationship with our children in sport. We can be champion sport parents, and we're going to give you some intentional ways to do that. But first, we're going to ask if you've seen parents maybe making some mistakes or being inappropriate in the sport environment. What does that look like? Cursing at the officials. Yes. Please don't do that, parents. Coaching from the sidelines. I'm glad you said that, Val, because we happen to have a video about that.
Come on, Dad, focus. Widen your stance a little. Don't slouch. And don't screw up. This is the big leagues. What are you doing? Keep her on the ball. That was pathetic.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, sorry doesn't cut it.
So that's always a favorite, and it warms parents up. So many people can stand in those shoes, right? Ooh, maybe I've done that. So we group these common pitfalls, and we say common. Gosh, parents, sports are emotional. We get very excited, and we get dejected, and we want to see our kids succeed. So of course, we get our emotions involved. And so we want to avoid maybe some of these common things, and that is stardom or bust, only looking at the score. And we also do at this point talk about the probability of getting a college scholarship, which there's an NCAA probability chart in the back of the manual. We're kind of running out of time, so I'll just tell you we do refer to that. Living through your kids. You mentioned it, OT, at the beginning. This is a pitfall, and we've got to take care to allow our children play the game themselves. I got to tell you, parents, today, your eligibility is up. Your playing days are over. So let your child play, all right? And then also instilling guilt. Do you know how much time and money I've invested in your career? Our children should be grateful for what we've provided for them, but we should never make them feel they're playing out of guilt. It's actually not a good motivator. All right, parents, here's the heart of this workshop, and we're going to give you some intentional ways you can, in relationship with your child, really elevate them, support their journey in sport in a positive way. And we have 3 levels of being a champion sport parent. The first is with your child, and the second I'll have Pete do. That is how you behave in the environment of a competitive space. And the third is how you relate to your child's coaches. So first, recognize your child's gift at that time on that team, especially young children. They change year over year, and applaud them for their gift. Maybe they're not the high scorer on the basketball team, but what is their special gift to that team? Are they the one who, I heard you say earlier, encourages all the other kids? Are they the one who helps the kids stay in line and pay attention to the coach? Maybe they're the one who says, hey coach, we gotta pray before the game. So they have a special gift. Help them to understand that gift and praise them for that. Challenge your child to try new things and get better. So this is the goal setting. Have they set their goals, and are they checking in to see if they're reaching their goals? Are we out practicing with our kids, going in the driveway, the park, and shooting baskets with them? That will help them, especially family time shows we care about them. We also tend to talk about an idea here called mastery, which is a self-reference criteria for success. And so if Pete and I go out to play basketball, he's going to definitely be able to score more baskets than me. But if I practice, can get better based on my own personal progress. I shouldn't compare. Pete can score 10 baskets, I got 1. I shouldn't compare myself to Pete. If I go out at the beginning of the season, I can only score 1 out of 10, and at the end of the season, I'm scoring 4 out of 10. I've improved, right? I'm never going to get to where Pete is, 8 out of 10 at this point, but I'll keep doing personal best improvement. So focus on that personal best and mastery. Next is keep winning and losing in perspective. So, you know, if I'm gone during one of my kids' competitions and I call home that night, and if I'm not a champion sport parent, what might I ask? Did you win? That automatically puts the emphasis on the outcome and it skips the process. So, champion sport parents, what might you ask your kids following a competition? How was the game? Nice open-ended question. What else? Did you have fun? Anything else? What'd you learn? I love that one. Did you meet your goals? How did the team play? And I always asked, OT?
No, I was going to say the 2 things I always ask my daughter in her games and her 2 sports. I said, did you get better and did you have fun? That's the only 2 things I ask at all her high school games. I never ask about the outcome of the game. So.
Awesome. The other one I tended to ask was about the other kids on the team. You know, showing them that I didn't only care about my child, but I cared about other kids. You know, hey, how did Brandon do today? You know, I know he was kind of having a slump at bat. So you say, I care about all of you. Next is offering positive and specific feedback. And so we offer to parents the sandwich approach. Positive statements, something you honestly saw your child do in a very specific way. Instead of just saying, you did great out there, something specific. I liked how you got low on defense. I know you've been working on that. And then we go to a corrective statement. And the corrective statement is, notice it doesn't say criticism. It's a big difference, right? It's corrective. And I really love to pull the ownership into that piece, where instead of correcting what I think they could have done, I say, well, how could you have done that better, a specific skill? And get them to identify that, because that's discovery learning. When the athlete discovers the answer themselves, they're more likely to remember it and to learn from it. And then finally, you close the sandwich with another positive statement. And this is the encouragement that should lift our child's confidence that we believe that they'll make that correction. I'm not going to show this because it's a little long and we want to make sure we stay on time. We can always send it to you and you'll get these slides. So the next one is, how many of you have been to a game and you've seen this in the stands? We may not be verbalizing, or maybe our kids can't hear what we're saying out on the field, but they can see our actions. So take care to guard against some really negative nonverbals. So in our family, we came up with a positive nonverbal, and it was this. Brush it off. Mistakes happen all the time. And so it's a value, it's a mental skill for our kids to be able to set it aside, be ready for the next play. Ball's coming right back to you. What am I going to do? And so we brush it off. Talk about it later. Talk about ways to manage that later. But right now, we're going to brush it off. And then praising effort and sportsmanship. So if you've had your child set mental goal or sportsmanship goals, you'll be able to do that. Praising effort is huge. This goes back to Carol Dweck and mindset. This has been mentioned several times. Instead of saying, you're so talented, I love the effort you're putting forth, because that will be more motivational in the long run. And I've already discussed in encouraging discovery. Pass it to you, Pete, for the next level.
So, what example are we setting, right? You can see some statistics here, and frankly, this is probably underreported in terms of self-reporting these things. 68% of youth report seeing spectators yell at the refs. It's probably 100% at this point, right? 43% of youth being teased by a fan. I'd like to believe that's not 100%. But clearly, if you look at these, we're moving in the wrong direction in terms of what our kids are seeing. And so we've got to set the example for our kids. I'll pass. You think we should show that? I can pass over it.
Just show it.
All right.
That this is an emphasis we put on it. I wouldn't show the video, though. It's
Okay.
too long.
So we show a video that has this sort of guidelines for sidelines. And one of the things that I think is valuable for parents to know is that we do this with our coaches as well. So we look at it from both perspectives. How can coaches create a positive example how can parents create a positive example? So as parents, think about the actions you're taking on the sideline. Kristen kind of mentioned the verbal and nonverbal piece. But if you look up here, what are some of the toxic things you see? Those percentages that are pretty high in terms of what kids are seeing as well. Are you negatively reacting to an official's call? Are you coaching from the sidelines? What's coming out of your mouth when you're yelling on the field right there? Is it, hey, great job? Is it cheering? Or is it, no, go over there, shoot, pass, telling them what to do, right? That kind of thing. Instead, we can take what we call positive sideline behaviors, right? Instead of that, we can make positive statements. We can encourage our kids. We can treat the officials with respect, right? Instead of getting angry at every call that goes against us, we could probably learn to trust the officials a little better as well and recognize that the officials oftentimes know the rules better than anybody else out there. And I think this is critical, every official I've ever talked to is there to help the kids learn the game, right? They're not there because they want to mess up your kid's day or mess up your day, right? Or make sure the other team wins. All these things we tend to sort of think they have some bias. No, the officials are there oftentimes in our youth leagues because they had their own kids go through youth sports, right? And now they wanted to get involved in some way. Or they coach their kids, and now this is an opportunity to give back, things like that. So those officials are there to help support, and we need to support them. That's really important. Here's a very quick look at what coaching from the sidelines can do to a kid.
Jenny, nice and easy, right into the corner.
Come on, Jamie. Rip it past her. Yeah, that's a great idea. Telling her to hit it nice and soft so the goalie can catch it.
Oh, you think over the goal is a good idea?
I never told her to kick it over the goal.
And I never told her to kick it to the goalie.
Destroy it, Jamie.
Patience.
Annihilation.
Hey, where's she going?
Jamie, come back here. We'll give you cookies.
That parent is awfully aggressive. I would not want to be.
You can see we're a nonprofit. We couldn't hire any talent.
Well played.
Very talented.
We're gonna wrap up here in just a minute and move on to our final session of the day. But I want to give you a couple more things here. We spent some time with coaches, encouraging them to create a framework for communicating with parents and for setting up sort of the roles, right? And we'd encourage you as parents to take on that role as sports parent, take it seriously, and make sure we understand what our role is. So it's not to coach, right? But it is to make sure we kind of put ourselves in the coach's shoes, try to understand what they're doing. Hopefully they are communicating that with us. And I would invite you as parents who know that your coaches are on board with this play like a champion approach as well, to expect that of the coaches, that they do communicate and that they are in this for the right reasons. So remember to leave the coaching to the coach, but also support the coach, right? Kristen mentioned earlier, it's important for our kids to thank the coach. It's important for us to thank the coach as well, right? To recognize the time and energy they're putting into this and be supportive of them. And also to have appropriate communication, right? So if we do have an issue, and sometimes sports are emotional, things come up, are we going to handle it the right way or the wrong way? We always recommend a cooling off period, right? Wait 24, 48 hours. And then if it's still a big issue, and frankly, it's amazing how little it seems probably after even a few hours of being upset about something at a game. After a day or two, if it's still something you need to talk to the coach about, then approach them in a respectful way. Call, email, whatever it is that they've kind of set forward as, hey, this is how to reach out to me. Then you can do that, do it in a respectful way, but understand that they really want what's best for your kid as you put that out. This final piece I'll state as well, don't use your kid as a mouthpiece, right? Our kids hear everything we say. So if you think something went wrong during the game and you're talking to your spouse or a friend or whatever and you're criticizing the coach, guess what? Your child is hearing that and they are thinking, well, the coach doesn't know what he's doing, right? I know mom or dad said that the coach, messed up this call or whatever. Now all of a sudden you've undermined the coach's authority. So not only don't use your child as a mouthpiece, but watch your own mouth around your kids, right? In terms of the message you are sending, even if you don't intend to send that. Our kids are always watching, always listening. couple final tips, and these are actually in the back of your manual, so I'm not going to go over them here, but we do like to point these out to parents because health and safety, very important. You know, even things like making sure our kids are eating at the right time of day, if they've got practice after school or practice around dinner time, practice later in the evening. Are they getting enough of the nutrients they need? Are they getting hydrated? Those kind of things. We have those resources in the manual, can point you in the right direction. There's a lot of good stuff online. Obviously, we want to create a safe environment where everybody feels welcome, feels included, and also feels safe being there. We work with coaches on that and with our partners on that as well. So we'll close here just reflecting back, right? And just take a moment. We talked about what it means to play like a champion today, staying in the moment. Well, I'll ask you to close here by thinking back to your own moments, right? And maybe thinking back as well to the moments watching your kids play. Think about as you go forward and you go out to your next sporting event, your next practice, you're in the car with your kids. What is so great? And what can we learn, in fact, from watching our kids play? And maybe also as well, because when we started talking about, you know, what does a Christian or a Catholic youth sports experience look like? How is it different? How can we find God in our children's sports experience? No matter the age, youth, high school, whatever it is, are we actually recognizing the gifts and talents that God has given them as they participate in those sports? So I always like to close by saying thank you to the parents in the room, right? Thank you for entrusting your children to this organization, this school, to these coaches. Thank you for being here today and being committed to creating the best possible experience for your children, because we as parents do provide that experience, good or bad, right? And so your commitment to changing the culture of youth sports, to creating a positive direction for your child's youth sports experience means the world, and it'll mean the world to them. So thank you very much for being here. And as a matter of practicality, then we always have parents fill out an evaluation as well, so that we get feedback on how they've been changed by hearing this and this culture.
So we have a special treat here this afternoon, well, this morning still. And I'd like to bring Mike Poole up to the riser here. You've met Mike a few times. And if you are a youth coach trainer, you know Mike does a little scenario, a little modeling about being a positive champion coaches. And I'm going to let him tell you about his program in town called Positive Outlook. And here's our fun surprise. Marcus, will you come up? We have a hometown Notre Dame basketball player. He grew up here in Mishawaka, and his name is Marcus Burton. And his dad is with us today to tell us something. What's it like to be the parent of an elite athlete? And the fun thing is that Mr. Poole coached Mr. Burton.
I know it's getting late, so we're not going to hold you, but what we want to do is we want you to be interactive. I will tell you, I thought about writing a book a long time ago, but my book would have been all about Marcus Burton. So to bring us full circle, to see his son doing all the great things that he's doing here at the University of Notre Dame, and everybody's in awe, and I'm like, I saw that before. This is the guy who started it all. So we'll start with this question, and then we want to open it up to anybody. Please ask as many questions as you can for our 5 minutes that we have here. I had to tell him that. Don't tell him. What was it like, seriously, coaching your son?
Okay. What was it like coaching my son? I think it was very easy. The reason why it was easy was because he loved it. So I didn't have to push him. He used to come to the gym with me and stuff like that, and he just seen me and took a liking to the game. So like what they were saying earlier, it's a lot easier when the kid loves it. So I didn't push him. He asked me to help him with what he loved to do, and that's what I did.
Okay, the other question I have for you, used to play youth basketball for me, and can you tell us a little bit about you playing as youth basketball that was important or that you learned that you transferred over to your son?
Oh, Yeah, so that's a good question right there. So we grew up in different times. So we grew up like around parks and stuff like that. And my son had it a little bit easier than me, you know, but he took on some of the traits that I had, like as far as the resiliency, the adversity, just showing him that the things that you would have to deal with in real life. So we applied that, and things that I learned from Coach Pooh. You know, he took us around like the country growing up and stuff like that. So we seen different cultures, learned how to deal with different type of people, and you know, we were going places where we didn't have fans. But by the end of it, we like took everyone's fans and stuff like that. So we seen basically applying good sportsmanship and people taking a liking to us around there. So I implemented that with my son, and yeah, that's what we learned.
Okay, we played in a tournament one time, and Mr. Burton, Marcus Burton, came up to me. And we started winning games. You know, we just started winning. Everywhere we would go, we would win. But the kids were starting to lose the focus, so everybody wanted to be the best on the team. Guys, remember that parable in the Bible, or that section in the Bible where they came up to Jesus and they said, "Can I sit at your right? And who's the greatest?" We had that same problem as a team because we started winning. Marcus comes to me. This is why I love this guy. And he says, "You know, Coach, I see we're having problems with the team, and everybody wants to be in charge of the team. So I'm not going to play this weekend." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, let them have the glory. I'm not going to play this weekend." I'm like, no. You have to play. And he's like, no. I want them to take the glory. I want them to play. And so then he thought about it for a moment. He says, "You know what, Coach? I'll play this weekend. Thank you, Marcus." So he ended up playing that weekend, and he says, "But I'm not going to shoot the ball." Me knowing Marcus, I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. So he didn't shoot the ball one time the entire tournament. And at the end of the tournament, they voted him the MVP of the tournament. That's when I realized, oh, you know what? It's something else about this guy that's not about scoring a lot of points. So how did you take that message in that conversation that you had with me back then and translate that into the development of your son?
Well, I'll say sports is like a reflection of your life. It's a reflection of who you are. So when I seen like the controversy going on with the team, knowing that my whole goal was just to win, go out there and compete, and the guys were in competition with me at that time, I said, okay, what they didn't understand is we needed everyone to win. So I took a different role. Even if I had that role, I switched my role and let other people play the role. Well, and I did my role, the new role, to my best of my ability. So when I was able to switch, let people have the stage, and just be humble in my role and stuff, I showed just a different level of the mentality of what we can do to still achieve our goals. And I guess, yeah, it worked out.
Yes, it did. Another thing that, of course, I can go on and on, but I'm going to cut it short. We were playing in a tournament in Chicago, and Marcus, of course, was our leader. He kept the kids under control. He played basketball extremely well, but he was a leader on and off the court. So we're playing a team from Chicago, and going back and forth, tough game. And at the end of the game, Marcus Burton, this is how special this kid is to me, we're down 1 point. It's only like 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds left in the game. And so I'm over on the sidelines, and I'm like, guys, make sure you get the ball to half court so we can get a good shot off. And Marcus says, no, get the ball to me. So he rolls around. He catches the ball on the other side of the court, which I was not very happy with. He turns around and shoots it the entire length of the gymnasium. nothing but the bottom of the net. So that was a story that only increased his legend. But when you talk to your son about being a leader and leaving his own legacy, how important is that when you speak to him about playing for the University of Notre Dame and what this university means, what he means, what this community means? How can you wrap that all up into one?
I think first and foremost, it's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing for my son to actually get the experience, just to see just the culture, the people here, the great people, to be able to learn and get an education. I guess in the sports world, just playing at this top level and to be able to see him compete and just to push his God-given ability to the maximum. So that's great for me every day. Even if you take wins or losses, it's special just to see it. It's just surreal. As far as him, I like for him to put everything together, be able to make his own story, write his own story, do what he wants to do, and give all the glory to God. So we're just living in the moment, enjoying everything that we have. And so, yeah, after sports is over, like they talked about earlier, I would like him to just be just a great man in the community, give back, be a leader, and help give back to his family and other people that need it.
That's awesome. Now you guys see why this guy is so special to me. One of the things that he said to me, that we said to one another, when we first started playing basketball, of course, you as a coach or me as a coach, I saw that he was very unique and special. And I pulled him over to the side. I did not know how he was going to receive this because we had just met, but I didn't know how he was going to receive this. And I said, you're talented. Like, I don't know if you know how talented you are, but you're extremely talented. But I said, what I need for you to do is take that same gift that you have, and I need you to give it to others. Are you able to do that? And he said to me, and he had to be probably 14, 15 years of age. He says, yes, I can do that. And that's when I realized how special he was, because I had been coaching for a few years, and most young kids can't do that. They can't translate that over. But he was able to translate that over. But to this day, and recognizing him as a young man, as a father, as a mentor, he still does that within this community. So as I wrap up, my last question, how can you as a father, as a mentor, as a coach, as someone to your son, how can you instill those values in your son to bless this community as he continues to grow as a person?
I think it's pretty simple, but the process isn't simple. So it's like following your calling. So whatever you're called to do, I think that's what you do. And it might be challenges and adversity going through that, but good and the bad. And so whenever you're able to take the good and the bad and just overcome it, I think it's a beautiful thing. And so just in the community for me, my son, and all that, I will just continue to do the best that I can do and strive. So even if it looks away to the certain eye, I just know what I'm doing is, I guess, a good deed and stuff like that, and that's where I get my blessings from and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Guys, please, if you get a chance, meet this guy. You see why he's special to me. I know our time was quick, and I can tell you story after story after story, but the thing I love about him, and I really appreciate about him, is to see this going full circle. Because I remember when he was a little kid, and I was picking him up in my car, and we were going to play basketball, And now when I'm sitting watching the University of Notre Dame playing, and they're like, Marcus Burton. I'm like, this is the real Marcus Burton. Guys, thank you so much.
Oh, and one more thing. And I'd just like to say thank you too, Coach.
That was a nice opportunity to have you two shared following our parent workshop, talking about what it really is to be a positive sport parent. So thanks for that witness. So now there is lunch available in boxes, and so let's just take 10 minutes, and we'll come back in here at noon for our end of the day community meeting, and you can eat your lunch while we're talking, but we got to wrap this up with some action. We want to know what you plan to do, what you hope to do as you spread the love that we've shared here these last 3 days. See you back at noon.
I've done stuff in assistant referees, refs for the city, and I've been wrestling football, soccer, basketball. He's actually the guy like just like well, the trust was coming along. I think he's like, and I was in Paris, Coxell, my son, my buddies all have like coach him up for like an 8 year court. Coach is really part of the game. But like Jack, that's my job. Like whenever I go, my son, coaches, as administrator, coaches lose every Jack's like, well, you did the same thing 5 years ago. Right.
All right. Love, love. Faith, hope, and love. We conclude with love. What? We're going to invite you to share. What are you inspired to do? What do you hope to do to share love in your home communities? I'm sorry there are no door prizes today.
We don't have door prizes. Nobody wants to talk all of a sudden. All right, we got one here.
There you are. Oh, okay. I'm going to hand the mic to talk about what we were talking about with the retreat.
Hi, everyone. I've been put on the spot. Yeah. So over the last day or two, we started having some constructive conversations on how to strategically plan to bring organizations that are doing similar work, like-minded youth leaders in the city, and coming together and creating not necessarily a collaborative, but more of like a roundtable discussion to figure out how we can meet each other's needs. A lot of times, we want to look outwardly for resources, but the resources that we might need might be in the room. So, we're going to be partnering with Carnaleaf and bringing a few other organizations that, I already have a few on the top of my head, but I also want to consult with people like LaVonte and people that I've made connections with out here to see if they can kind of help guide us through the process of trying to create something organic in Philly. Because speaking to silos, like Philadelphia is like a textbook example of organizations working in silos and competing for resources. So if we could come together and have some healthy dialogue, I think that might take us a long way. So that's what I'm taking from this week, and I'm going to go back to Philadelphia energized and ready to go.
Who else? Who else has action they're going to take? Here you go.
Yeah, so I think we've talked here at our table kind of about the ability, like what we have collectively going forward, right? So 20 years of experience, in this room, doing this program adds legitimacy. So for me, my area, we don't have anything like this going on currently. So it's an opportunity for me to go in what will feel like to me, and I think most people that, I'll be introducing this to, it'll be a new thing. But there's so much legitimacy because of the people that are in this room that have been through the program. You got Notre Dame's name behind it and 20 years of data that I'm really excited to kind of see, not just how far in 20 years the program has come, but where will it be 20 years from now? And my guess is that we're all here because we see that there's a gap in where we are now and where we can be in the future. And I'm really looking forward to, like you said, the people in this room and the people that I've met have been really easy to talk to, really easy to just engage with a handshake or a fist bump. And I'm sure I've gotten some emails and gonna follow up to stay connected and learn from all of you. And hopefully I'll be back. It's certainly gonna send some other folks out, for sure in years to come. Thanks.
What else we got here? Yeah, all right. Make my way over here.
I look forward to bringing this back to my daughter, who started her foundation just as her parent, and being a parent of 4 athletes. I've seen a lot of the challenges with some of the parents that took it too far and made the sport not as much fun for many players. So I look forward to bringing this to my daughter and trying to incorporate it into her foundation to teach other parents. And I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to talk to her about it. I think I mentioned the other night that I've been lucky and blessed because somehow my children, I know we all say this about our own kids, but I think they understand that there's a bigger purpose to what they're doing and that there is life after the sport. So I hope that all those lessons can be incorporated into the messages that my children relay as they're in the world.
Start with Anna, I'll come over there.
I feel so inspired. This is my 4th year coming here, and just the evolution of all the work that Pete, Kristen, Clark, everybody puts into this conference. This is my first time over the last 4 years that I've come for all 3 days. So I was able to experience it from day 1 all the way to the Friday. And I can't tell you, I'm not rich, but how rich I feel just being able to gain so many more contacts and you guys, resources, your knowledge, your wisdom, how much I can learn from all and each of you. And I know I didn't connect with everyone and each of you, but the ecosystem that Play Like a Champion is building here is amazing. And I am going back to Chicago. I am going to be speaking more about Play Like a Champion because, again, like we've been talking here throughout the entire conference, is we have a responsibility. So next year, I do plan, and it's already in the works. I remember Kristen or someone else maybe bringing up yesterday, who will you tell about this conference? And I had already planted a seed with my niece, Christina. She's actually in the basketball industry herself, and she played college ball. And she stopped hooping, but she's still in the industry, and she currently is working for the Brooklyn Nets, doing activations and community engagement in New York City. So I will be bringing her next year with me to Play Like a Champion conference. So I want to thank everybody just for being open, being approachable, being amazing in just the respective work that you're doing, and just being even vulnerable, right, here, because sometimes we feel alone a lot of times, and we may not release that. So I just want to say thank you, and this has been amazing and beautiful.
We'll come back this way.
Thank you. So I want to begin by saying that just being around so many like-minded individuals is my first time attending Play Like a Champion, but I felt like I've been here for years. Just being around like-minded individuals who share the same passion to see the true potential of what sport can be has reinvigorated me and recharged my battery in a very much needed way. Stepping into the role of athletic director, you know, I've been telling Laz and Russ throughout the weekend that it's happened very much by chance. I come from a sports psych background, a counseling background, and I was always wanting to do one-on-one work with athletes and teams, but God has gifted me the opportunity to take it to the macro level because as we all share the passion of seeing more beyond what sport can be than winning. And I've always had the dream of building an athletic program where we can really cater and make sure we offer an optimal experience that makes that platform possible for every student athlete that suits up. So for Bishop Lynch, you know, what I see for us is just continuing to expand curriculum, workshops for coaches, workshops for kids, workshops for parents, our community, to expand all that teaching, all that knowledge to everyone that we can reach, to show that what we're doing is really putting the athlete-centered focus first on the people that we serve, and we're looking to transcend sport beyond the bounds of play, making sure that the values and the virtues that we're instilling in them assist them to become the people that they're meant to be, not just the competitors that they're suiting up to be. So that is what my dream for Bishop Lynch after being here is really reinvigorated now, you know, thanks to you all and thanks to the great group of Play Like a Champion. Just appreciate being here. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all. Thank y'all all for being here. Thank y'all for inviting us down here. Real quickly, my second mentor is this man right here. He took a chance when most people didn't. So I try to learn my bestest from him. He's an outstanding guy, which you all know, but he's full of joy. He's full of inspiring moments. And I met Christy. She came to our facility. We opened up the Play Like a Champion with our parents and some of our kids. It was a beautiful moment, And Clark, you're an outstanding person. You're a very outstanding person. You had me and Martin Corday cracking up. This man is beautiful. This man is beautiful. But what we're taking back, mostly me, to take back for the youth, for the parents, or even us as coaches, to be a more better understanding with them. You know, for them to understand that you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But you're also going to live to fight another day. Now, outside of the sport avenue, what you going to do financially? What you going to do mentally, physically for yourself, to help train another? Then I go back to him because that's what he's been doing with me. So, but Play Like a Champion showed me a lot. And this is my first time to the conference, but this is my second time being here. Thanks to Christy, Coach LaVonte, Clark. So, but thank you all for coming, and I thank y'all for lovely intelligence. I love it. Thank you.
LaVonte, you already know. Every year since, I don't know if it was 2016 or 2017, I can't remember, it's been so many years now. It was the first retreat that I ever been that's hooked me on here. And, you know, as coaches, and I was going here before I became an athletic director, so I was still coaching. And, you know, you're like, I know I'm trying to find, like, what's my purpose, my why am I doing these great things? And I've said this, and I say it all the time, about play like a champion. In things of teaching, coaching, character, and I haven't found anything in the country that's as great as this. Like, I haven't. And this is, as soon as I'm done with school, this is the first place that I run to for the last 7-8 years. And from that, between being a coach and then having to build an athletics program from scratch in Chicago, the first thing that I told them when I had that opportunity 5 years ago is that I was going to make this the DNA, the foundation. And I can't be any more grateful to the partnership that I've had with Kristen and the powers that be and everybody in here. Yes, I do call them the powers that be. And Kristen has had the opportunity to come to see our campus on 79 West Monroe, right downtown Chicago, and for us to do some of the amazing things that we've done. And whether it's been having Kristen come to do a session with my intrinsic crew, she and I leading stuff on the west side for the courses and those type of things, the partnerships that have been created in here from that. Last summer at the retreat, I was so moved by the Foundry Field that by that fall, we had kids from the South Side and created the Fall Classic. I've already talked to Ann and talked to her about the media club that I created for my student athletes and my kids that are creating them. And I said, we're gonna partner and make that happen. So I guess this is a reminder of how can I remain to be a champion in the platform that I have for who we serve, right? It's my obligation to use my platform and be the vessel that he has created me to be in the assignment that he assigned on my life to champion the people that we are all here to serve. That means we move in the same areas. LaVonte, me and you move in the same areas. So it's continuing to build this network. Even I was telling my Florida crew that I love them so much because I was like, they're the ones that created the PE curriculum around you guys. So like, let me bug Kristen for a couple of years to do a high school version of it, right? So like this, I am, because that LTAD stuff, I'm already picking his brain for how to put that to my coaches. So like, how can I feed myself so I can stand and know that I'm being a champion for everybody that I serve? That's how I'm rejuvenated every year with this 3 days. So just thank you for 20 years of providing that so that we can go out and leave here to be champions for everybody that we serve.
I'll throw something in here real quick as I walk over here, and we'll get Mark first. We'll come back to you. You know, it's funny. I think everybody here probably feels a little bit like, all right, I left my home, my community, and I came here, and now I'll go back out to where I'm from. But what I think is really cool, one of the things I've noticed the last couple of days is not only the impact you've made on each other while you're here, but you're making impact on the next generation as well. You know, we've had a few young student athletes with us, my daughter being one of them, but also Xavier and Kaylin were here. And I got to tell you, at least I know for my daughter, and I'm sure the others as well who are here, they're taking notes, right? They see what you all are doing and they're inspired. I know my own daughter said to me last night, like, I've never been around this many people from different communities and doing different things. And she's telling me about I loved what that person said about what they're doing. So our kids notice, right? They certainly notice in our own communities, but even when we're outside doing other things. So that's kudos to all of you for what you're doing, but don't underestimate the impact you're having, even when you don't think you're having an impact. on the youth you're serving outside of your practices and your school building. So wonderful, wonderful job, everybody. Mark?
Thank you. I guess it's almost kind of threefold. I've always used this conference as a chance to not just rejuvenate, but to let go last year and to let it in the past. In many ways, I'm blessed. I also kind of frame what I go through as there are a lot of first world problems that we deal with, or I deal with, that no one's losing their life, no one is not being fed, no one is homeless. There's still plenty of love and support, and so perspective is extremely important. But it gives me a chance to let go yesterday, and to suit back up for next year, to get that armor that we need as administrators. Secondly, the messaging yesterday morning, I forget who spoke about clarity and mission, and who was that? James. I had already had it in my head saying, what do I want to do differently next year with the athletic directors? And it just solidified that when we come together in August for our retreat, mass, dinner, and meeting, to ask them what their mission is. Is it clear to their end user, the parents and to the students, what their goal is of their specific athletic department? So I'm emboldened to move forward with what that's going to look like. And I think thirdly, the reality that, the literature that's been out here for 20 years now, society has changed drastically. The data has changed as well, but the messaging has not. And for whatever reason, we needed the messaging pre-COVID. Post-COVID, the messaging today is as important as ever before, because we're seeing that there's a disconnect between how we should act and how we are acting. And so I have found that the lessons learned in both the coaches and parents classes are needed more now, post-COVID, than ever before. And somehow there was insight to put all of this together 20 years later, or 20 years ago, I should say. And I'm intrigued to bring the PE curriculum to Denver, because if we're sending this messaging to the coaches and to the parents, why are we skipping the kids? And so I'm hoping to be able to gain traction with that. So to me, this is God speaks in wonderful ways if we open our hearts, and he speaks to the people who are around us. And truly, I think that through this conference, I hear God's message to continue to do and to do more. So thank you for offering this.
Yeah, this will be short, but so we were here 20 years ago in 06 for the first one. And it's grown a lot. It's gone, and it was 13 of us, I believe, 13, and now there's a few more. But so all I'm going to say is we have a responsibility and an obligation, like Orlando said. We need to spread the word. Like Clark said, there's 150 registered. There needs to be 7,000. So the people in this room are drinking their Kool-Aid, but we got to get more people to drink that Kool-Aid.
We're going to have to get a bigger venue for the 7,000 people Chris is bringing next year. Another one here. We'll work on that.
I want to follow up with, it's perfect for me. I'll be short as well. It dawned on me last night, I was thinking about how this has affected me. And it's really been like, I feel like Goldilocks, when too hot, too cold, and just right. This has been just right in every single way, every time it turned around for me these last 3 days. But I have been, and with that, I'm a parent, I was a college athlete, I've been a college coach, and now I'm a teacher. And the reason I want to follow up with this, with what you said, is to throw out that teaching aspect of it. I cannot wait to find out more about Teach Like a Champion, because your energy is so needed in education, in teaching, because we are defeated in a lot of ways with everything that we're up against. Like you guys, I mean, but you, I think because that background of sports, you persevere. And as teachers, we're leaving like crazy. And we need, with what you guys want to do and accomplish, we need the teaching side of it too. So I implore you to go back, and if you don't connect with teachers at all, I've seen really cool things happen where, like a senior night, except senior night, it's who was the teacher that influenced me the most? And you bring them out on the football field or the basketball court or whatever and involve those teachers, because we need to work together. Because what you guys have, we're lacking on the side of teaching. And so walking away from this, I hope that I can bring that to my school and hopefully out in our community, and maybe be able to work with continuing that teacher side of it, because this is amazing. I'm so thankful for all of you, and the environment that was created, it definitely needs to go outside of here. It needs to continue. We need to keep reaching people, because this message is so needed. Thank you.
I'm not trying to hog the mic, I promise, guys. But back to Pete's, when he mentioned about community, I'm often asked in interviews, where is your community? And my response to that is, my community is everywhere, wherever I make community. I'm not tied to just one community. But I wanted to kind of piggyback off of Peter because that was amazing. But I also just wanted to get back on the mic, and I would be doing you all a disservice if I didn't share this. I am a consultant, and I've been working on a 3-year project with Nike in Laureus. It's 6-month duration for the last 3 years, and I'm one of the community facilitators along with 2 other colleagues, and we've really made an amazing space for nonprofits that are either beginning girl programming in their respective nonprofits or already have girl programming going on in their nonprofits. And they're trying to maybe implement that, but really just creating that space where we can learn from each other. And the last 2 years, we've been at the round tables just discussing challenges, obstacles, and what is working, what is not working, what can we do better. And now we're really putting it into action. So going back to what LaVonte said, belief, right? And making a plan and then executing it. We're at that execution stage where July 18th of this year, we're having a She Can Play Day. So it's going to be sports sampling of all sports, and really a wellness piece to it as well. So we've been able to orchestrate this amazing day. And I want to invite the people that are maybe locally in Chicago or close by, please feel free to come and stop by. It's taking place on July 18th. I would love your support. And it's taking place from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. At UCAN on the west side of Chicago. So please, if you're nearby, put that on your calendar. And thank you. So we actually have a flyer, and I can share that with Kristen and Peter, and maybe they can share that with you all on an email blast. That would be amazing. But it's crazy the ties to this though, because Jason Daniels, who was here yesterday, NLARA, UCAN, that's where it's happening. And of course, we're always going to tie in Play Like a Champion as well. So yes.
Please make sure you send that over to me.
I will. I got you, Coach. Thank you for that, though.
Anyone else have any thoughts, comments, action items? Oh, Val's got some action items. You gonna create more work for yourself, Val?
Kristen's not on my good list today, so let's not talk about what Kristen did to me. Kristen played a bad trick. She put Steve right in front of me, and she's sitting like this while Steven is talking, looking about his high school faculty. And I look over. First, she can see my eyes lighten up, and then I look over, and she says, "Just a little more work." But to take off what Chris said, that we should have more, right? This year from Miami, one of our independent schools joined us. From Belen, the athletic director joined us, and each time we sat together, he would say, "And what about this AD Val? And what about this AD Val?" And there are other independent Catholic schools in Miami, and I kept hearing this. "And what about this AD Val?" So I will bring all the independent schools together, especially now that I have Belen, who's with us and is going to help me, because Laz is such a great AD at Belen, and he's a great helper. So we will try to grow the Miami community, and I invited those that were at the place that I was with youth leaders yesterday. Kristen is coming to Miami in October 13th, to retrain the middle school physical education curriculum teachers, and the invite is there. You just need to, if you don't have my email, go through Kristen, and Kristen can forward. You're all welcome. I can add you to that training. You got to get there yourself. You got to find your own hotels, but it's a long day. Kristen can attest that the food at Pace is very good. But we are going to retrain that middle school curriculum, because we, just like everybody else, right? We have a high turnover in educators, and since we saw the huge transformation, and we've only had it 3 years, but we've had a huge transformation by implementing this middle school program, that if anybody wants to see it, just let me know or let Kristen know, and I'll get you in there so you can see how it runs.
The kids love it.
Yeah.
My mom taught it, so I can tell you. She always tell me how much, the students love it, and it gave them those tools that they needed. So it is, and I was telling OT, it also reaches the kids that aren't in the sports teams, because everybody in the elementary schools is taking PE, but they don't all necessarily play on a sports team, so they're getting those lessons too.
Kristen says she's buying the airfare.
I will not sanction that on behalf of the board.
The board votes yes. He's the
Anybody else? Maybe we'll let Clark and Kristen close us out here. It's been a long 20 years, but we're just getting started, right? So love hearing all of the incredible things you guys are going out to do in your own communities and keeping this going strong, right? We're here for 3 days, but there's another 362 days of the year, and that's where you all are doing the amazing work in your own communities, right? So keep at that. Know that we are behind you. We are supporting you. We will help you however we can, and I'll let Kristen and Clark close us out here.
Okay, thank you so much to each of you. I've grown so much in love with this program and have been filled up so much by each of you in some special way. So I want you to take out your phones, and I want you to scroll to June of 2026. And I want you to mark June 10th through 12th as the next time you'll return to us here, same place, McKenna Hall. And we look forward to you coming back, and we look forward to you bringing others with you. And I also want you to know, raise your hand if you're staying tonight in South Bend. So I'd like to invite you to my home for dinner, maybe pizza and salad and beer. And so here's my address, 1127. Okay, slow down.
People are still putting next year in their calendars. So
Yes, okay, I've got
we'll come back to tonight in a minute. Clark, do you have next year in your calendar? Is that? Okay, good.
Okay, 1127 North Notre Dame Avenue. Should we say 5:30 or should we say 5? Because let's say 5:30 because we have a little cleaning up to do. Let's say 5:30. I hope you'll come over because we're our family, and that's what family does. We get together and we eat together, we break bread together, and we fellowship. So I hope we'll have the chance to do that in an informal way this evening. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, rather than invite you to dinner, I'd like you to invite me to dinner. I retired. I don't have to teach at Notre Dame, and so I am looking for invitations. invitations. No, seriously. I think we want to take the show. You are the show on the road, and I think we just want to be as present to each other as we leave here. I really appreciate what Kristen's doing. Also, maybe a shout out to Anna and her father. I feel graced that they're here, and I feel graced that we can see that sports is for all and sports is for life. You could be wearing that, and that's
You got coin that.
yeah, and
That's this year's theme.
yeah. Sport, no, but that we were talking about long-term athletic development. Someone said I got to learn more about that. This is a model. I said, I asked in the group, like, can we agree on LaVonte said, we have to have faith, hope, and love, which is belief, plan, and act. I feel like I think we got the belief, and we do. So many of us go to our religious tradition. I was like, we go to creation. What was all this for? And then the planning part began to happen. The loving part always has to happen, but also to realize that we bring ourselves, our lives, our whole self. Anna brings her basketball and her energy and her organizational abilities and her business stuff. She brings her dad. And I realized this year a lot. My wife broke her hip. We were at a youth lacrosse game, and she got blindsided like the quarterback would get in early November. And down she goes. And during Christmas time, we're spending. I wasn't living there, but I was there practically all day, all night, with my wife, who was dependent upon people to get her to the restroom, get her out, bring her food. She couldn't do these things for herself. I wasn't even allowed to walk her to the bathroom because of the condition she was in. She could have a fall. It was against the rules. And I realized how dependent I was on those caregivers. And one day I said, how much? I said, I owe everything to her. My wife day-to-day gets screwed because you're there to assist her. By the way, how much do you get paid? Because I couldn't pay you enough myself for what you're doing now for my wife. I can't be there all day. They wouldn't let me sleep there. And then they told me they were just over the minimum wage. And they're working 2 shifts to make ends meet. And so I realized how this world of care would care for our parents, care for children and our spouses. And sometimes they're real close, and sometimes they're the children, we say other people's children. And we got to bring what we can when we can, and life comes up, and you can't always. Then you get the love and the privilege of caring for your father, care for my wife for a while in an intense way, care for children who are in trouble. So just remember, we bring ourselves, and we help ourselves to do this thing. We are deeply dependent on each other, as I get reminded every now and again, because I've enjoyed good health and nice job. So I'm deeply grateful. We can do such wonders together. We cannot do things as individuals. We learn that painfully in our lives. So I speak in gratitude and humility. Want to be a part of what you're doing as much as I can and work with you. One last thing I learned, it's a little thing, but Cause taught it to me yesterday, actually, but it said let people know. One way to do it, I'm looking at the camera, is give your local TV station a call. If you've got a local newspaper, print media, tell the stories in public so other people can read about them. Invite them to your games, and maybe even think of ways of gathering people afterwards to say, how can we extend what we're doing, the blessings that we have to be able to have this, like at the ball field. How can we get more kids involved? How can you get involved? So I think we got to use the media, and maybe if everybody promised that it will come back and have a little test. Did you get one TV or two extra TV stories if you haven't done it? I think that would be another concretely. But thanks for being here. I love you. And we don't want to be too far away. So we wish you a happy Juneteenth. We wish you take serious this 4th of July. Let's see, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, happy Easter. And we'll see you next summer.